as part of a reorganization that MSDNC, as many call it, are doing to, I guess, reduce overhead. They've got some more defamation suits they've got to pay out. That's a problem. They're paying these people way more than advertising revenues generating, given the size of the audience. And so there's a bit of a shakeup going on at MSNBC. But I got to say, I'm of two minds and hearts on this, because in a way, it's unfortunate that Joy Reid is going, just because she so consistently provided bulletin board material for we free-loving conservatives on this side. So it's bittersweet for me. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line.
Well, how much was she making? I mean, how much was she saving? I'm trying to figure out.
Saving? I mean.
No, the network is saving with her being gone.
Oh, I mean, it's definitely in the millions. But I mean, regardless, wasn't she one of the ones that had tax problems back in the day?
Well, they all did. I mean, has Al Sharpton paid his taxes yet?
Well, no,
the guy's withering away. He's got to get off the Ozempic or something. Oh my God!
So I thought she was one that had some challenges with paying her income taxes on time. You would think a Harvard grad, and she really did Harvard a solid, would be more on the ball than she was. But regardless, I mean, just to give you a sense, we've played a lot of Joy Reid over the years, the last several, because she has been such a over-the-top, hair-on-fire, race-hustling demagogue when it comes to Trump and Trump supporters. I mean, I mentioned Elie Mystal. I mean, they did this wonderful vaudeville act for a few years. I'm going to miss it. So Elie Mystal, for those of you not avid MSNBC watchers, he is the fat, effeminate Don King guy who apparently
he's got the
has a law
white
degree.
Hair.
Shockingly, apparently has a law degree. And this is the sorts of things that you're just no longer going to feature on MSNBC. It's unfortunate.
The reason why it doesn't end his career is because his supporters are just as despicable. All right. Like Trump's whole thing, he's a narcissist, right? And so his whole thing is to have a complete lack of compassion and empathy for everybody else. It's all about him. That's why he lies about 9/11. It's all about him, me. He's probably the least compassionate president we've had in 200 years since Andrew Jackson. And it works for him because his supporters are just as ungenerous and have just as little compassion and empathy for others.
See, I mean, they took the deplorables that Hillary Clinton started and they elevated it to despicables. I mean, that's the kind of content you got on the Joy Reid program. And as I said, I'm going to miss talking about it. I really am.
I got to tell you, she made $3 million for that 1 hour show, 5 days a week. Are you kidding me? And that was after she took a pay cut in late 2024.
Whatever the market will bear.
But what does this mean? Does this mean that they're becoming more centrist as a network, or dare I say they're going to replace her with a right-leaning commentator?
No, it's going to be a panel show of similarly oriented nitwits.
Yeah, Michael Steele's on it and somebody else.
The content, Simone Sanders was a socialist and not quite as vitriolic, but similarly disposed. I mean, Mehdi Hassan, all the other propagandists.
Let it cook.
Yep. Will still be there. That probably move her to prime time. Chris Hayes and Rachel Maddow will continue to confuse viewers in terms of who is who. But it's going to be the same deal. It's just no one provided again that perfect crystallization of who the identitarian left is. Like a Joy Reid. Let me give you another example. I mean, a lot of people didn't pick up on this when it came to, ordinary Americans talking about inflation, but she did. You know why?
Why?
Because she knows white supremacy when she sees it, and it's everywhere.
The people I ever hear use the word inflation are journalists and economists, right? So that is not part of the normal lexicon of the way people talk. So it's interesting that Republicans are doing something they don't normally do, right? Which is not use the common tongue, right? Not use just common English to sort of do on their campaigns like they're doing with crime. But what they've done is they've taught people the word inflation, right? Yeah. Most people who would have never used that word ever in their lives are using it now because they've been taught it, including on TV, including in newspapers. They've been taught this word, and they sort of wrap this word around whatever it is that they really want to vote, the reasons they really want to vote.
Now, do you get it? You see what they did? See what those conservatives did? They took this word that nobody uses, I mean, unless you've taken an Econ 101 course, to describe price increases. It's called inflation, but it's not. But people don't use that word. People don't use the word inflation. So what they did is they keep saying inflation, and we'll pretend that it's about inflation, this thing inflation, when it's really just a cover for us to vote because we're all honky Christo-fascists, you see. So inflation was the way it sounded like, oh, it's just about a pocketbook issues. But what it really was is our way to say we're entitled, we're honky Christo-fascists, this is our country, we don't like people of color, and this will be our misdirection, our rhetorical misdirection play. See, only as someone like Joy Reid, so in touch with what's going on, could provide that sort of insight.
All the things that we think about electability, about, what are people gaming out, or none of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not a white conservative Christian is a fraudulent American, is a less real American. Then you don't care about electability. You care about what God has given.
See? That's when you said inflation, that's what you really meant. I'm a honky Christo-fascist, and I'm entitled to the America I want. It has been bequeathed to me and people I don't like, mainly because of their appearance, because that's the only basis to not like people, that at least when it comes to honky Christo-fascists. That's what's really going on here.
You know, it made me mad.
So
University of Iowa paid her $50,000 to come speak there. Because her parents both met. They were both professors at University of Iowa, and met there.
Oh yeah, well yeah. She had real issue with the Iowa caucus being first. Because Iowa's full of honky Christo-fascists.
Yeah, really? Her parents met there. Her dad's from the Republic of Congo and her mom's from Ghana.
But still disproportionate percentage of honky Christo-fascists. That's why Trump's doing well, and that's why Iowa didn't deserve its prioritization on the electoral calendar.
She was going to change the world, Dan. Okay.
She also had, this again, these sorts of just stripping it all away and laying it bare. She also had great political acumen. I mean, like this distillation of the 2024 presidential election. I mean, you're not going to get this from everyone, even on MSNBC. Okay.
I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. She had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Taylor Swift, she had the Swifties, she had the Beehive. Like, you could not have run a better campaign.
Yeah. You know how you know you've run an exquisite campaign is if Queen Latifah endorses you. That's what everybody knows that.
It's so rare, yes. People study that in political science class.
Bob in Buffalo Grove.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Always good talking to you. I looked it up, and apparently Joy Reid makes $1.5 million. It's a nice salary. It's about that.
Yeah, she was making more than that, but thanks for the call,
that
Bob.
2024 cut that that everyone took a pay cut in, she went down to 1.5.
No, she was at 3, and she went down to 1.5, and now she's out the door. Maybe her and Don Lemon, the Joy and Don show.
What about her and Jim Acosta? Joy and Jim, JJ.
Joy and Jim in the mornings. How about Joy, Jim, and Don in the mornings?
How about that?
Put a little lemon on that Acosta. Craig in Mount Greenwood.
Hey, good morning, Dan and Amy. Thank you for taking my call. I used to think there was a bit of just joking around when people would talk about the insanity about Trump and all that, and all that stuff. It is, I believe it is absolutely legitimate. These people, for all the time, the years, just hating Trump and being so against him, that it really does cause brain damage. It's so legit. These people need to be medicated or something. their hatred till this day, they seed with that hatred, even to the point of, like we were talking earlier, if Ukraine fails, just so the Trump fails. I mean,
well, it's not just about Trump. I mean, again, you got the answer to the question about Trump supporters and how Trump gets away with being so despicable. It's because every single one of his supporters is also unkind, lacking in empathy, and is equally despicable. That's what you heard from Joy Reid on her show every night for, I don't know how long was the show on, an hour, for the better part of 5 years, so the better part of the Trump era to date. And boy, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss it. Coming up at 5:38, Trump has a testy exchange with the Maine governor over boys playing girls' sports. We'll talk a little trans, 5:38.
And Dan, in Wisconsin, no more moms. We are something else, we'll tell you. But now let's head into that newsroom. That was just my advice, Mike Scott, to those on the outbound Kennedy. Get off at Montrose, go to Milwaukee, go to Lawrence, and then hop back on the outbound Kennedy.
That's what they tell you to do.
Well, people were going taking
long.
Edens to Wilson, and that line, all the truckers around there. I'm like, dude, easy breezy.
It's been shut down since 2:40 in the morning with a bad accident, lots of injuries, lots of emergency equipment on the scene, and the Kennedy remains shut down. It's on the outbound side, as Amy has been saying, from the Circle all the way out to the Edens Junction this morning, and we'll keep our eyes on that for you as well. Today is the day the Trump administration is set to put all civil servants employed by the U.S. Agency for International Development on administrative leave today, as well as cut 2,000 employees from the agency. Today also marks 3 years since the beginning of the war between Russia and Ukraine.
On this date in 2022, Russia launched invasion of Ukraine, a conflict that has resulted in a massive number of casualties on both sides. The invasion escalated tensions that had been brewing since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. A Wall Street Journal estimate from September puts the total number of dead and wounded in the current conflict at about 1 million, but exact figures aren't known. Diplomatic efforts to end the war have stalled between Russia and Ukraine, and last week, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Saudi Arabia to discuss a peace agreement, something Ukrainian officials were not invited to participate in. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
President Trump welcoming French President Emmanuel Macron to the White House later today. Pennsylvania authorities say the man who held staff at a Pittsburgh hospital at gunpoint before killing a police officer had visited that hospital before.
Reports of an officer down as well as the shooter down inside the hospital.
Police in York County say 49-year-old Diogenes Ortiz was holding hostages at the UPMC Memorial Hospital ICU, threatening to kill one in the hallway when officers opened fire. Officer Andrew Duarte and the gunman were killed in a shootout. 5 others were wounded. The trial of the Highland Park July 4th parade shooting suspect gets underway today in Lake County. Robert Cremo III is accused of killing 7. Jury selection is also set to begin today in the trial of the Plainfield landlord charged in the murder of a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy in 2023. Joseph Chuba faces charges of first-degree murder from the October 2023 incident. Nearly 1,400 residents of the Chicago Housing Authority are behind on their rent, many nearly 2 years behind on their rent. In total, the Housing Authority is owed about $10.4 million in late rent, according to the Office of Inspector General. Despite the hundreds of tenants who were at least 4 months behind, the CHA legal office only has 124 pending eviction cases. The Bulls lost to the Suns. Visit the 76ers tonight. The Blackhawks gave up 3 goals in the third in a loss to Toronto. They visit Utah tomorrow. Cubs beat the Rangers 6-5. White Sox lost to KC in spring baseball 4-3. College hoops over the weekend. Loyola beat Dayton. DePaul lost to Butler. UIC took down Evansville yesterday. 1 Big Ten upset. Indiana topped number 14 Purdue. The news, a service of almostfreeteeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Check if you qualify, almostfreeteeth.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The first weeks of the new Trump administration have been full speed ahead, making America great again.
It's going to only get better.
And on Tuesday, March 4th, President Trump will take a victory lap when he addresses Congress and the nation. And AM 560 is throwing a watch party.
They tell me it's very exciting.
Join us for dinner and President Trump's speech on March 4th in Rolling Meadows. Get your tickets at 560theanswer.com/watch. That's 560theanswer.com/watch. Sponsored in part by Fox Valley Coins.
Wow. Are you buying or are you selling? As this is being written, silver is up more than 50% in just the past 8 months. And gold is the highest it's ever been. Whether you are just getting into the metals, want to roll your IRA into silver or gold, or want to take some profits off the table, Fox Valley Coins is ready, willing, and able to help. Even though Fox Valley Coins is a national dealer, they're family-owned and in your own backyard. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville almost always has the product you want in stock and pretty much always has the best pricing when you buy or sell. Buying or selling is easy. Bring your items in. We'll establish the price and pay you cash or check on the spot. Why wait to move your assets around? Did you know that Fox Valley Coins has sold over 3,000 1-ounce silver Donald Trump coins? We have several designs, but they're going fast. Fox Valley Coins on Route 59 in Naperville. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
President Trump is moving at lightning speed.
Billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse.
Executive orders, new policies, promises kept. It's hard to keep up until now. Subscribe to the Trump Report. This email brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week.
The golden age of America begins right now.
It'll help you follow President Trump at the speed of Trump.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at mvpcfp.com. That's mvpcfp.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to mvpcfp.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
5:39, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Only one major problem out there. Kennedy outbound, shut down between Montrose and Lawrence. All traffic diverted onto the outbound Edens by police. It's a multi-vehicle accident. It's been in place since around 3 a.m., and they're still cleaning up, putting things back together for the morning rush on the outbound Kennedy this morning. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Cloudy, breezy, and mild. A high near 50 today. A typical February thaw, if you will. Overcast with a shower in the area. Low 35 overnight. High 52 tomorrow. 40 at O'Hare, 40 at Midway, 39 in Aurora, 39 Lakefront. Your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Have you seen Substance yet, Amy? The Demi Moore movie?
Oh, I saw a 20 minutes highlight reel of it and decided I am not going to watch that movie.
It is...
it's grotesque at times.
It is wild. It's basically... I was trying to encapsulate this, thinking about it, because it has a political application, so wait for it.
Oh, okay.
It's like Dorian Gray meets Carrie meets Midnight Meat Train. which is tough to do.
Midnight Meat Train. Yeah.
Corley Farjar, I think what's her name? Corley Farjar, I think is her name. She's a French director who did this. I knew where it was going, right, but not nearly to the level it went there. I mean, not nearly. You cannot believe where this goes with Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, who plays
the young one.
Yeah, the young version of Demi Moore,
well,
and she's Andie MacDowell's daughter, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think she deserves an Oscar for it? Because she's nominated. Demi Moore is, and I think this is her time.
Well, first of all, the idea that this film would be nominated for Best Picture is jarring, but it was good. I think it was about 20 minutes and about 40% over the top for the last 20 minutes than it needed to be, but it certainly leaves an impression. I got to tell you.
Don't chase youth.
Wow. Yeah. So anyway, I was thinking about this.
Stop Botoxing.
And I think that life, just a postscript on our conversation about Joy Reid's sad departure from MSNBC.
You're still licking your wounds over that. I know.
But I think, just thinking about MSC more globally, I think that the movie Substance, I couldn't watch it, and I think that we already have life imitating art. So Mark Cuban is Demi Moore.
Uh-huh.
Rachel Maddow is Margaret Qualley. And then Chris Hayes is when they get together. I think that might be what's happening over there. Which is why
I can see it.
Which is why they have to, clear more cap space, perhaps. Anyway, I did also want to mention, I mentioned this in passing, but just to be specific about it, propagandists having to pay up. It's kind of nice to see. NBC Universal has agreed to settle a federal defamation suit filed by a Georgia gynecologist over MSNBC's coverage of allegations that he performed mass hysterectomies on female detainees at an ICE facility. This is back in 2020, and it was this misinformation and disinformation, this propaganda to whip up empathy for people in this country illegally, was platformed by Nicole Wallace, by Chris Hayes, by Rachel Maddow, who, again, one person. It was clearly established that this doctor they accused of performing mass hysterectomies, totally false. And it was, first of all, he's not a public figure, but even if he was, for an alleged news gathering organization to be as wrong as they were about this, particularly given the severity of the allegations, boy, talk about reckless disregard for the truth. But I think that's their motto, isn't it? MSNBC, reckless disregard for the truth. Just want to make sure people were aware of that, too. It's good to context for everything that you see coming out of who's ever left at MSNBC. All right, on Friday, we talked about it a bit because Trump had mentioned at a public gathering he was aware that Maine, the state of Maine, was not complying with his executive order to prohibit boys from playing girls' sports, and thus they would be in danger of losing Title IX and Title VI funding.
Yeah, they let a male pole vaulter who's now claiming he's a girl play and compete in the state playoffs, and he won first place in the girls' competition. Yep, state champ.
There was a gathering of the governors. The National Governors Association descended on Washington, and of course they had some FaceTime with the president, where the president addressed the governors. And here's how that went between President, again, Trump, and Maine Governor Janet Mills.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. and enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
That's what I voted for. How about you? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line.
I mean, honestly, to me, I can't watch that enough. I can't hear that soundbite enough. That is such a boss move. Because then she comes back to him like snarky, like, we'll go to court. And he's like, I look forward to seeing you in court. That is his finest moment, I think, so far as president. Honestly, because he's in charge for a reason. People, even Democrats, don't want men playing in women's sports, especially at the high school level.
Yeah, well, a lot of them do, actually, because otherwise it wouldn't be happening. So actually, a lot of them do. Janet Mills is one of them. She's sitting right there in the audience. She's a governor. We have a governor who wants it, too. His name is J.B. Pritzker. So a lot of them do.
But then what's going to happen? They're just not going to get the federal funding if they don't comply, right?
First of all, at least in terms of Title IX and Title VI funding, that's pretty straightforward. So Maine's going to lose that. In terms of any federal funding for the state of Maine, across any areas where they could be, I wouldn't say entitled, but there could be opportunities for federal dollars to flow to Maine. I mean, it'll be interesting. I don't know the particulars of it, but he can certainly impose a penalty on Maine. And after that exchange, you can be sure he's intent on doing so, and he should be. Because that is not a rogue president. That is a president acting within his authority. That is a state that is flouting the president's authority. And he's saying, well, there'll be consequences. So you want to go to court to memorialize those consequences? Sure, let's go to court. No problem. That's not a dictator. I'm happy to see you in court. I'm happy to see you in court. And we'll argue it before a federal judge. And if you get some Obama appointee then or Biden appointee, and they want to play politics from the bench, well, then we'll go to the next level. And then we'll go to the next level after that. So this is very much like talking about Trump protesting the election results or everything that happened during his first term as well. Oh, he's a dictator. He's a would-be tyrant. He wants to be a strong man. He's this and that. And yet every argument that he prosecutes, he either uses the power that he legitimately has, and or he goes to court. So that's to seek a remedy, which is what you do in a free society, what you do in this constitutional republic. And to the extent he's challenged, okay, we'll go to court.
312-642-5600 is our turnkey.pro answer line. You could also text us on that very same line.
Really the act of a dictator. This is, but propagandists are going to propagandize, and that's what they're doing on this issue, like every other issue. The Chicago Tribune beclowning themselves yet again. The front page story. They're trying to make us disappear. That's a quote from, one of these allegedly sympathetic trans individuals. They a platform to attack the Trump administration. They're trying to make us disappear, quote unquote. Trump's attacks on trans communities sow fear and paralysis in Illinois. Why? What is there to fear, and how are you paralyzed? Here's what I think about so much of this. What's happening now is there's no more celebration. Oh. People have been given license to say this is wrong. And many people are saying it now that won't lead on it, but they'll say it if somebody creates this space for them to say it. And Trump has done that. Not just Trump, but importantly Trump. And so now it's, wait, because there's so much of a piece of this that's a social contagion. That's the only way you can explain the exponential explosion in trans-identifying individuals, particularly the young. And so, what do you see on social media where they are always face to camera, or you have organizations that are also always promoting the Drag Queen Story Hour or some other lascivious event at a senior center and so forth, with men gyrating around scantily clad, pretending to be women. And this is about their celebration, and we create a spectacle. You celebrate us, and we all champion ourselves as either members of or allies to this marginalized community. Well, a lot of the fanfare is gone.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's really what they were in for, is the fanfare. Now I'm just living my boring, mundane life, the same boring, mundane life I was living when I was living as the sex that God assigned me. Oh, there was no fanfare to that. But then I got fanfare, and that sort of filled a void. This is not for everybody. It's a general statement that explains some of what's happening. And certainly stories like this Chicago Tribune story. And so now I'm back to having to deal with that void that was there, having to deal with what the real problem is, because I don't have the accolades and the celebration to fill it. It's sort of like, I was just thinking about this. This is like, basically, it's like one of those when the crowd stops cheering stories.
Oh, yeah.
Like a professional athlete. When the crowd stops cheering and you're left to your own devices and nobody is particularly interested in your protestations or whatever it is you're doing at any given time, you're just another ordinary person. That's when the demons come out, if there are demons present. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. Answer line.
We got a grid text message. Women's sports is not a retirement plan for failed male athletes.
Well, hardly a retirement plan, because you're talking about this at the grade school level.
Right.
That's the issue. You don't really have to worry about it so much at the professional level, do you?
Well, it's always a concern. I mean, if they let it happen, if the governor of Maine, what's her name?
Janet Mills. Unless she's transitioned to Justin. She may have. She's a huge proponent. By the way, she looks like Stephen King in a wig. So
she
maybe
does.
her real name is Justin. I don't know. But
I may say she allows it at the high school level. She'll allow it at the professional level. But I don't know if Maine has any professional teams.
Yeah, but allowing it, with few exceptions. This is not the issue. The issue with respect to this is at the K through 12 level. All of this. That's where the crux of the matter is. And by the way, Janet Mills, there's videos of her. She's dancing at some trans event and this and that because she's a typical identitarian politician. Maine's sort of a daffy state. Although Trump did very well there, so he says, right? Yeah. Trump, George in Naperville.
Yeah, Dan, Trump's correct stance on this issue will save lives. It'll make young people think twice about going this route where they'll regret it, and it could help many of them.
Thanks for the call, George. Well, certainly if you tamp down rewarding people for making a spectacle of themselves. You don't want to sort of ridicule or minimize people who are really struggling with identity issues, gender dysphoria. But this is not you don't parade them in front of cameras or have them gyrate in front of adults at some school function or library. This is obscene, and it's you want to talk about unkind. It's unkind. You're using kids as mascots for your political agenda, as opposed to dealing with kids on a one-on-one basis to address whatever the particular needs are. And so this was interesting too. There was Bill Maher was on that Pod Save America podcast with those former Obama staffers, three Obama soy boy speechwriters. One of them is John Lovett, and they went back and forth on this trans issue, and here's what Maher had to say.
Do I think in most of America they did that in schools? I don't. But I think in enough of them, in enough far-left places, they did constantly have this idea in the minds of children that maybe you're not in the right body. The New England Journal of Medicine advocated for taking sex off of a birth certificate, I believe. It was like you're assigned sex.
Assigned says
assigned.
Yeah.
You're assigned.
I think that's right.
I was assigned it by my when I was born. Yes, and again, to tell kids it doesn't always have to be and isn't always the default setting, but that's a different mentality than they put in the minds of kids. And that's why this debate goes on. And the fact that you think, or a lot of people on the left think that even if you just have this debate, it makes you a bigot, you just have to roll over. You asked about the Biden administration. That was their position. If you even question this, you're some sort of a bigot. And this is new science, and it has to do with children, and it's not going to look good in the future.
Lovett, not John Lovett, not John Lovett. It's very different. This Obama soy boy. tried to argue a couple things that are untrue. One is that, all the studies have concluded that gender-affirming care saves lives. It's not true.
Not true.
Number two, he asserted that what was the other thing that he asserted? I want to get to that he just well, anyway, here I'll get back to that. Here's what Lovett said in response to Maher, and pick up on the analogy he used. Bill Maher certainly did.
For a long time, people said, older gay people are recruiting kids to be gay. And they wouldn't really be gay. It was they were being recruited, they were being groomed, that they were being drawn. That was their conservative position. The Christian right position for a long time was the reason you didn't want to have gay teachers is they're going to recruit. That the gay lifestyle is going to look so enticing and so exciting that it's going to bring these poor defenseless boys, they mostly boys, into the gay lifestyle and destroy their lives. But of course that wasn't true. Really, all gay teachers were an example.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Look, there are a few examples
of
people getting older and realizing that they shouldn't have transitioned. That happens. It's real. That's real.
Yeah, more than a few.
But there are also really important surgeries that people get for their heart, and they go wrong, and somebody dies. And nobody says we must stop the cardiologists. No one says we must stop the surgeons. We say, let's...
That's your analogy?
Well, my analogy is only that...
Yeah, right. Trans surgery to heart surgery. I mean, this is what you're dealing with ideologues. And this guy is, these soy boys, they're just brutal. But the other thing he said, too, is that, of course, everybody opposes this idea of hiding what a kid is going through or transitioning a kid or calling a kid by a name other than the name that his parents gave him in school and hiding this from the parents. Everybody opposes that. And Maher, at least, who's sort of middle on this, was at least, that's not true. First of all, we talked about this, parents defending education. You've got these gender-affirming policies and procedures in place in more than 1,000 school districts that represent more than 12 million kids enrolled. I mean, this is a lot more pervasive, became a lot more pervasive over the last half decade than even Bill Maher wants to admit.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 6:06, arguing over the DOGE dividend intensifies, as well as that questionnaire, that single question that federal government employees have to answer from Elon Musk, lest he consider a non-answer a resignation. That's 6:06.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott. Good morning, Mike.
The outbound Kennedy is shut down between Montrose and Lawrence. A bad accident and investigation continues there. The trial of a Highland Park shooting suspect is set to begin. An Iowa man wanted in a deadly shooting at a Chicago hotel. Bulls lose to the Suns. Blackhawks fall to the Maple Leafs. The Cubs beat the Rangers, and the White Sox lose. WIND Chicago News Time is 6 o'clock.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth tells Fox News Sunday President Trump wants the war to end.
The president is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's stopping the killing and the destruction across Ukraine and ensuring an enduring peace.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has offered to resign if there is a peace deal and Ukraine is allowed to join NATO. He's rejecting an American attempt to share profits from Ukraine's rare earth minerals because there's no U.S. security guarantee, and all that's up for discussion today.
French President Emmanuel Macron arrives here at the White House for the first time in President Trump's second term. Europe and NATO allies are pushing for a larger role in peace talks after a high-ranking U.S. delegation met with Russian counterparts last week in Saudi Arabia.
That's Fox's Jared Halpern. Pope Francis remains in critical condition, battling pneumonia, but the 88-year-old Pope is said to be alert after the Pope slept and the night went well.
He's still receiving oxygen, the blood transfusions. There are also signs of what the Vatican is calling kidney insufficiency. Needless to say, the prognosis remains guarded.
Fox's Lauren Green in Rome. More than 1,000 workers at the U.S. Agency for International Development being fired. Staffers overseas put on leave. as the Trump administration calls USAID out of control with wasteful spending, as other federal workers are on deadline to respond to an email to list their accomplishments last week, pushed by DOGE leader Elon Musk.
Saying failure to respond would be taken as an act of resignation. But some agencies are telling their employees to not respond just yet. So it's unclear whether there would be repercussions for not responding.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. Musk just posted on X this morning that federal employees who've ignored the Trump order to return to the office will be put on leave this week. America's listening to Fox News.
39 degrees at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer, good morning. I'm Mike Scott. The trial of the Highland Park July 4th parade shooting suspect gets started today. Jury selection beginning in Lake County Court for the trial of Robert Cremo III. Jury selection is also set to begin today in the trial of the Plainfield landlord charged in the murder of a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy in 2023. Joseph Chuba faces charges of first-degree murder. An Iowa man wanted in a deadly shooting at a hotel in Chicago over the weekend. Police say a woman was found shot Saturday night in the lobby of the hotel along West Grand. Later, a woman who had been shot in a room on the 30th floor was discovered. She was later pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. Detectives are still searching for the suspected gunman, a man from Davenport, Iowa. A person of interest is in custody, all following a deadly shooting on Chicago's South Side. Officers responded yesterday morning to a call of a well-being check along South Ingleside Avenue. They discovered a woman unresponsive with a gunshot wound. She was later pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. A new survey finds that Chicago residents are deeply dissatisfied with the Chicago Police Department and have grown skeptical about any reform. The pessimism persists despite reform campaigns that have seen city taxpayers pump upwards of $208 million into the reform project this year alone.
Because of that report saying that Chicago has not made any significant efforts, then the public's going to be very skeptical of whether the department is trying to make efforts at all.
Chicago Alderman Chris Taliaferro argues no one should be surprised residents have grown cynical. He is a former CPD detective and notes that the number of people saying they're confident in reform efforts and that they will have lasting effects fell again in 2024. Bulls lost to Phoenix on Saturday and visit the 76ers tonight. The Blackhawks lost to Toronto and visit Utah next. Cubs rally for a win over the Rangers 6-5 at Sloan Park, while the White Sox lost to KC 4-3. They take on the Rangers this afternoon. The News is a service of Valdecast Windows for the discerning homeowner looking for high-quality, professional-level window replacement service. Contact Valdecast Windows, your award-winning Platinum Elite Pella certified contractor, Valdecast.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Was your Valentine's Day kind of lame this year? Yeah, the same old flowers and chocolates. Well, you've got a chance to redeem yourself and put a smile back on the face of that special someone. You can say, I love you, in the form of $2,000 if you win our Cash for Couples contest. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/love. That's 560theanswer.com/love.
Why pay more for prescriptions? Stop overpaying and start saving with SingleCare. It's easy. Find your prescription on singlecare.com, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and start saving. SingleCare works at pharmacies nationwide and is completely free to use, whether you have insurance or not. So the next time you fill a prescription, check SingleCare to make sure you're getting the best price. Take control of your prescription costs. Go to singlecare.com or download the free app today.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Michaela's Mobile Spa, Michaela! Michaela got a quick business insurance quote from Progressive and chose from over 30 customizable coverages. Sure, it helps she's her only employee and does literally everything, but while others would rest on their laurels, Michaela was hard at work saving big. So take that, hypothetical other employee who doesn't exist. Be your own Michaela. See if you could save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage is not available in all states or for all vehicles and coverage selections.
If you have high blood pressure, you have the #1 risk factor for mortality.
Don't be a walking time bomb. Make this change and watch your blood pressure drop.
Order a 120 Life today.
Yes, 120 Life is an amazing blend of superfood juices that can actually help lower your blood pressure.
It's been endorsed by thousands of health professionals and doesn't have the side effects of medication.
It's up to you to control your blood pressure, not Big Pharma.
Seriously, 120 Life could be the natural game changer in your life. Try it yourself risk-free with a 2-week trial pack. You've got nothing to lose but your high blood pressure.
Go to 120life.com and use promo code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping.
120 Life is so sure it can noticeably lower your blood pressure in just 2 weeks, they'll give your money back if you're not satisfied.
Order the 8-ounce drink or powdered mix. From pomegranates to cranberries, it's the delicious way to lower your blood pressure. It really works.
Go to 120life.com now. Use coupon code 560 to save 15% and get free shipping.
AM 560 listeners, sign up today to receive a free financial education video series, The 5 Retirement Pitfalls and How to Avoid Them, courtesy of Steve Shyman, host of Protecting Your Assets radio show, Saturdays at 8 a.m. Sign up is easy, and the 5-part video series is completely free and will arrive in your email inbox. Sign up today. It's free. Please text your name and email address to 833-945-7283. Again, please text your name and email address to 833-945-7283.
Jeff Tishlar, author of High Tech versus the Highest Tech, has shared his knowledge of the spectacular things that we see in nature, as opposed to what man has created, and how this should inform one's faith. Jeff served on the mission field all over the world and has created this highly illustrated and concisely written technical book. The easy-to-read format is understood from the youngest reader to the most intelligent and mature readers. Google and Amazon book reviews include, "This is the best little book I have ever read. It is amazing how much information is in this book." And a beautifully written and illustrated book. The author has a gift for describing complicated technical details in a very understandable style. This book is available now in paperback on Amazon. Search High Tech versus the Highest Tech by Jeff Tishlar. 100% of proceeds go to missions. That's High Tech vs. the Highest Tech by Jeff Tishlar.
6:09, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is a service of Fox Valley Coins. Currently buying all gold and silver bars, coins, silver dollars, rare date, proof, and mint cents. FoxValleyCoins.com. The Kennedy outbound still shut down due to a bad accident with injuries and an investigation. It's shut down between Montrose and Lawrence. All traffic is diverted onto the outbound Edens. Delays on the Tri-State this morning. Southbound, just after the Eisenhower Expressway, 294 blocked up with an accident in 2 right lanes. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, cloudy skies, breezy, mild day. High today, 50. Cloudy with a shower in the area tonight, low 35. Partly sunny day tomorrow, the high 52. And then mostly cloudy, mild, some occasional rain on Wednesday, high Wednesday, 51. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
40 at O'Hare. Your next news update, 6:30, and Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. You know how it took some people who are otherwise reasonable some time to come out of the COVID cult that they got folded into?
Well, it's hard to convince people they've been fooled for 3 years. Yes, I remember well. I think some people are still in it because I saw a guy yesterday, Dan, with not 2, not 3, but 4 masks on at Trader Joe's.
Some people will always be in it. Some people are lost for good. But there's a percentage of Americans that are otherwise sensible that got whipped into a frenzy, sort of the folie du phenomenon with the COVIDians. And it took them a while, but they started to slowly recover their senses. And then they started to look back on what happened as opposed to what was happening in real time. And the further it got in the rearview mirror, the more they moved away from the positions and the people they had previously supported. That's happened and is still happening. The same thing is going on right now with respect to the last 4 years of the Biden administration. And that's not me saying it. That's former Clinton pollster Mark Penn saying it. He released some new polling this morning, and the comparison of people's attitudes about the job Trump is doing, obviously in this honeymoon period. But more importantly, as they look back on the previous 4 years to contrast it with what's happening now, Biden is looking worse and worse in the eyes of many people who voted for him.
And frankly, the Democratic Party is falling off a cliff. The ratings, which were in the high 40s, are going to be like 35%. And I think the basic question, who's doing better job as president, Biden or Trump? Trump is winning that with 57%. I think you're seeing a retrospective assessment of Biden and the direction the Democratic Party was going. It really a lot more negative than it was on Election Day. And they're looking at the contrast on immigration, on economic policy, on some of the social policies. And boy, they're reevaluating. In the Democratic Party, I have never seen anything like this. This is a record low for the Democratic Party in terms of favorability. It has fallen really, really way down. And I don't think there's any leadership right now that's going to be able to bring that back.
He went on to add from his polling, job approval for Trump overall, 52%. But some of the key things he's doing right out of the gate, border, DOGE, resetting merit as the prime hiring and contracting principle, wildly popular, supermajority popular. And this is why Penn doesn't really understand the thinking behind the effort to demonize Musk.
I really don't understand the Democratic strategy, frankly, of going after Musk. There's overwhelming support for cutting government spending. Overwhelming, you're talking 70% plus numbers saying that that's waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, Musk himself has about an even personal rating, but the mission that he's on is really seen as one that America needs to do.
And I'll tell you what feeds support for the policies even more is the entitlement mentality they see on display from some federal workers and their sponsors in the House and Senate, like with those rallies and the protest songs last week. I don't know if you saw some of these USAID workers, now that a judge has cleared the way for some 1,600 positions at USAID to be eliminated. They're walking out with bankers' boxes that have messages on them because, of course, the press is there assembled to catch them walking out with their bankers' box, so they're going to send a message. I mean, this is also choreographed, which is, adding a further insult to the American people's intelligence. One on her banker's box, "We are abandoning the world." Another woman, her banker's box, "You can take the humanitarians out of USAID, but you can't take the humanity out of the humanitarians." Boy, is that profound.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. What would be on your banker's box, Dan?
Is that like, what color is your balloon?
Yes.
Yeah. On USAID, since this has become an inflection point for the left, I mean, all the government spending is, but this particularly over the last couple of weeks. Paul Vallis writing about USAID and his experience, how USAID squandered billions in Haiti and around the globe. Paul Vallis.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time in Haiti helping the Haitians after the first earthquake.
Yeah.
And he's been back several times since.
Yeah, he should stay in the back office and do things like this as opposed to try to be an executive public official. That's where he sort of loses the narrative beyond his core capacities, as he demonstrated several times now, most recently in the race he lost to Brandon Johnson. But on this, he makes some good points. There's probably no more corrupt agency. I'm quoting him. There's probably no more corrupt government agency than USAID. Since the 2010 earthquake in Haiti killed as many as 300,000 people, the government has dispersed around $4.4 billion in foreign assistance. At least $1.5 billion was dispersed for immediate humanitarian aid, while another $3 billion went to recovery, reconstruction, and development. Less than about 2% went to Haitian organizations in terms of the contracts and grants.
Right.
About 56% went to firms located in or near the capital. Now, that's not necessarily a problem because, there could be a lot of industries that are required to do the reconstruction and so forth in Haiti that Haiti doesn't have indigenously. But you have to actually scrutinize the spend, and so Vallis goes into that, which is the key here. He writes, it remains unclear how exactly the billions have been spent and whether U.S. tax dollars have had a sustainable impact. USAID and its vendors have generally failed to make such data public. And so it's been, he rightly concludes, it's been impossible to analyze how effective the use or impact of those funds were on reconstruction and recovery. In 2010, the nonprofit Disaster Accountability Project attempted to conduct a report on the transparency of NGOs in Haiti a year and a half after the earthquake. Listen to this. They reviewed 196 organizations, out of which 8 had readily available information about their activities.
Jeez.
196 organizations, 8 had some information to provide to this accountability project. They had received collectively $1.4 billion.
Oh, my God.
And they spent only about $730 million of that on Haitian relief efforts. So that's half. So another $750 million went, we don't know. USA, he goes on to say, too, and I want people to perk up, especially when you see the Red Cross being advertised on football games and so on and so forth. I mentioned the Red Cross before, but it certainly hasn't taken hold. USAID is not alone in the lack of accountability, writes Vallis. One of the largest nonprofits involved in the Haitian emergency response, the Red Cross raised an impressive $500 million for Haiti following the earthquake. Yet 5 years later, many, including a former Haitian prime minister, questioned whether most of those funds actually reached the Haitian population. For instance, Red Cross claimed they provided housing to over 130,000 people, but the organization only constructed 6 verifiable homes. They said 130,000 people got housing,
and
6 homes.
6.
That must be real cramped for those 130,000 people. The Red Cross has refused to make available a list of the specific activities they conducted in Haiti, only providing a breakdown of the funds into large and nondescript sectors on their website. USAID and their NGO partners, such as the Red Cross, writes Vallis, fail because of what the Center for Global Development report calls the trickle-down effect of humanitarian aid. Money from donations passes through multiple layers of connected subcontracts and subgrantees before it reaches those who are carrying out the projects. This all but guarantees that relief efforts ultimately fail to meet their objectives despite the considerable amounts of money spent. And this is a conversation we've had every year that in our partnership with Food for the Poor in places like Haiti, because they do it exactly the opposite,
right,
which is why they're able to deliver the results that they do deliver.
But the people, the heads at Food for the Poor, they knew that USAID was corrupt. The Clintons, they knew that they were corrupt. Sean Penn, corrupt. I mean, that's why they're the only organization. They would roll their eyes when I'd ask them, all like, well, what about the other organizations that are supposed to be helping people? Why, people donated billions and the roads are still messed up from 2010's earthquake. Okay.
Well,
he said the money goes, people line their own pockets.
Well,
they stole.
Yeah, and some of those people include the Clinton Foundation, which was run by the Clintons.
Yep.
And these wired up, pun intended, cell phone contracts. Yep. And I mean, running quote unquote aid through the Clinton Foundation to Haitian redevelopment efforts. I mean, the thing is maybe not entirely a scam, but substantially. And the point is very much like you see at the federal level in this country, and frankly at the state and local level too, but federal and state, which is, and this is a point that, I mean, people like Thomas Sowell and Bob Woodson have been making for 60 years when it comes to transfer programs or welfare programs. you're funding the poverty bureaucracy. You're not combating poverty. You have to understand the difference. You're funding bureaucracies. You are not funding individual actors. You are not funding people at the grass tops or grassroots level that can actually make progress with scarce resources. You're paying off middlemen. That's what you're doing, right. Largely. Not completely, largely. But then we just focus on, well, look at we built this. We built these 6 homes. Never mind that you said to your donors and all of your, national, your professional athletic leagues and so forth, 130,000. All they care is about the stats so they can tout it, and nobody looks under the hood, which is why at least I give Vallis credit for having looked under the hood and writing about this in a topical way. Corey and Woodlawn, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. The problem is that Congress approval rating is so high, yet they've approved this spending year after year after year. And Rand Paul has been one of the people out there trying to point out this profligate spending year after year after year. This is why people go into non-for-profits. This was so lucrative for Sean Penn. He quit acting because he wants to do this. 24 hours a day, rip people off. Thanks
for the call, Corey. Ron, Southside.
Hey, good morning. Dan, the great book, Toxic Charity. So that's a good book for people to read to get an understanding of that. But I wanted to talk about not just federal workers, government workers, period. I have 3 words. The private sector. My wife taught 41 years in Catholic, private, Christian schools, 41 years. No union. Married. I worked 44 years, primary for 2 companies. Never have been in a union. We are comfortably, successfully retired and own a home. We have raised a very responsible, successful son, and he works in the private sector. So that's all I can say. I don't want to see a person without a job. But guess what? You're going to have to do it based on merit. No union is going to protect you when you don't perform. You all have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Ron. Paul, Carey.
Hey, I didn't hear you guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, you know what's striking about all of this? Like what's taking place in Libertyville in front of the Tesla dealership? Is these people are basically saying, yeah, I need you big governments to take care of me. I need you, the taxpayer, to pay my salary. They're basically saying I cannot make it out there without government, and shame on you for not understanding. And the fact is they don't want the reveal. They don't want the
100%.
It's glaring.
Thanks for the call. But that's the thing, and you see this too. All the hue and cry over this email that was sent from Musk or from the Doge boys vis-a-vis Musk. Basically, 5 bullets of what you accomplished last week, and CC your manager. Non-response will be received as a resignation letter. And it's like, what are we supposed to do about this? Should we reply to the? Why don't you just reply to the guy? You can't think of 5 things that you did in your particular position, and you can't send that to the Doge email along with your manager. Not 5 things you did last week in furtherance of the position that you have and the responsibilities attendant to that position. But instead of just responding, and then fine, whatever, he wants the accountability, and here's the things I do, and and come what may. No, it becomes a whole hue and cry, and what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to treat this? They're threatening my job, and it's inhumane, and I'm gonna write prepare a dismissal message on my banker's box for the cameras if I get sacked, and so forth. I mean, they're just it's such an infantile response because they have been allowed to live in this cocoon completely insulated from reality. And this is why there's such disconnect between these leftist politicians, because that's their constituency, and the people, sort of ordinary people looking at this and saying, what is the big deal? And in addition to you're spending what on whom for what? To what ends? But they look at the reaction to simple requests, and they think about it in the context of their job, and they say, well, yeah, and so? right? Matt, South Bend.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Thank you for taking my call. I think the accountability factor for the most unqualified group of people that were in the government during Biden's term, for advisors and just like that, whoever was running the country, it just makes sense for Elon to follow the money. I mean, go back to the Watergate, and Deep Throat and say, follow the money. Well, you need him to follow the money, and everybody in the country wants it unless they're in on it. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thanks, Matt. I mean, again, it's just, we're proud, we do important work, and we're proud federal employees, and we're under, so just tell us what you do.
Yeah, real simple.
If you're so proud of it, if you're doing such great things, then just tell us what you do. Why do we have to have Elon Musk and the Doge boys pull teeth? Just tell us. This was interesting. Hello, sir. A letter to Donald Trump that is going viral for reasons you'll understand momentarily.
Okay.
I'm one of the probationary employees terminated by DOGE. I voted for you, sir, 3 times, and I still support you. I was encouraged by the DOGE to see they were getting rid of wasteful spending. I support that, too. My termination letter said I was being let go for performance reasons. I know that's not true. I'm an excellent employee. I've been with the federal government for almost 16 years, 16 years in June. I started my career with USDA, transferred to DHS, recently came back to USDA because it's such a great agency to work for. Surely that must count for something in your eyes. My boss, his boss, the managers in neighboring states all agree I'm doing an excellent job and that I'm a great asset to the team. I'm the only some position in the state of Kentucky. My work here is valued and honorable. Each time I voted for you, it was because I knew you'd make things right and you'd fix the wrongs. I'm counting on you to make this right, too. I'm pleading with you to reinstate my employment and give me back my job. Please, Mr. President, thank you.
Huh.
I mean, I get it.
Advocate for yourself, yeah.
Well, and that's fine. And probationary employee at an agency, and let's just assume that everything he said is true for the sake of argument. At some point, the response has to be, and maybe considerations could be made based on performance that this guy retains his job. But I mean, we're reducing. Hopefully, I mean, they're doing it at USAID and they're doing it in other agencies. At least they're in process of, and this needs to be done system wide. Here's the story. The story is 2 million federal employees is way too many, representing the government being involved in way too many things that it is not particularly good at, which is most of them. And so we're reducing the footprint, and that includes reductions in headcount. And that probably means that some people who are fine Americans and diligent workers are going to be let go because their positions will have been eliminated, and because of other, features of being part of the federal workforce, seniority rules, and the number of people that are protected by have civil service protections versus the people that don't, and so forth. But I mean, that's the harsh reality. It's just like it's the harsh reality when somebody in the private sector who's doing very well gets laid off because their business took a downturn or the sector took a downturn and their business was impacted. So this is not to say, just to be clear, as we have before, everybody getting laid off is a ne'er-do-well, just sort of living off of government largesse and not doing anything productive and has sort of no sense of self-respect and obligation to produce for the taxpayer. It's not to say that everybody's like that. It's to say, here's what we have. It has grown beyond all recognition. It needs to be reined in. And so that means there'll probably be a lot of dead weight that's cut, and maybe some people that just were unfortunately part of an expansion that should have never happened. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer. Coming up at 6:36. We'll stick on this because we had an interesting exchange on the DOGE dividend over the weekend on CNN between the DOGE dividend inventor, if you will, the person who did the calculation, part of the DOGE team, and Michael Smerconish on CNN, 6:36.
But first, let's head into the newsroom. Catch up with the latest. Is Outbound Kennedy still closed, Mike Scott?
Still shut down.
Oy.
will be for a little while longer, as we understand, and we'll update that traffic story for you in just a moment. We'll start this morning in Ukraine, where today marks 3 years since Russia launched a full-scale invasion of that country. Yesterday, Maryland Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen joined CBS's Face the Nation.
This is not America first. This is America in retreat. And China and Russia and our adversaries are celebrating every moment of this as our allies are scared to death.
Van Hollen giving his opinion. Russia currently controls about 20% of Ukraine's territory at the cost of hundreds of thousands killed and wounded. Elon Musk says all federal workers must report what they did last week or be dismissed. South Carolina Republican Congressman Ralph Norman says it's a good idea.
It's not their money. We're the ones who are paying the bills. We have a right to know. And Elon Musk is, the numbers don't lie on what he's finding out.
In a social media post, Musk said employees will need to identify themselves in the things that they have done. And the move comes after President Trump said he'd like to see Musk be more aggressive. The president is announcing Dan Bongino will serve as the next deputy director of the FBI. Trump writing in a post on Truth Social that Bongino had served in the past as a member of the NYPD and the Secret Service. 3 police officers were killed over the weekend in Virginia and Pennsylvania.
Virginia Beach Police Chief Paul Newdigate says the men tried to stop a car with an expired plate. The suspect, John McCoy III, finally got out of the car. A tussle broke out, according to the chief, who says it ended moments later when McCoy pulled a pistol from his pocket and shot both officers. At nearly 30 miles south of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, suspect Diogenes Archangel Ortiz held hospital staff members as hostages. Police departments arrived on scene to defuse the situation, but a shootout eventually took place. The suspect was killed and 3 police officers were struck, to include Officer Andrew Duarte, who was killed.
The suspect in Virginia was later found dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. We're watching this morning in the Middle East, where Israel is sending tanks into the occupied West Bank for the first time in 20 years. The move comes after bombs exploded on 3 buses last week outside of Tel Aviv. The trial of the Highland Park July 4 parade shooting suspect gets started today, and jury selection is also set to begin today in the trial of the Plainfield landlord charged with the murder of a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy in 2023. Over 1,000 people were headed in West Beverly to St. John Fisher School Sunday morning for an annual pancake fundraiser in support of Chicago's police officers and their safety on the job. The fundraiser, Get Behind the Vest, was hosted by Alderman Matt O'Shea.
For whatever reason, they are not replaced. They should be. That would be part of a collective bargaining agreement between the FOP and the City of Chicago.
All the money raised goes to the Chicago Police Memorial Foundation's Get Behind the Vest initiative that buys new bulletproof vests for Chicago police officers. To date, the annual gathering has raised nearly $700,000 to buy the new vests, which need to be replaced every 5 years. Bulls on a 6-game losing skid after a loss to Phoenix. They take on the 76ers tonight. The Blackhawks visit Utah tomorrow. The Cubs, a spring training win over the Rangers. They take on the Padres today, while the White Sox lost to KC yesterday. They take on the Rangers this afternoon, and we'll watch as the NFL gathers in Indianapolis today for the scouting combine at Lucas Oil Stadium. The news, a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. If you've been getting high quotes for dental implants with medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% on average. See if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The first weeks of the new Trump administration have been full speed ahead, making America great again.
It's going to only get better.
And on Tuesday, March 4th, President Trump will take a victory lap when he addresses Congress and the nation. And AM 560 is throwing a watch party.
They tell me it's very exciting.
Join us for dinner and President Trump's speech on March 4th in Rolling Meadows. Get your tickets at 560theanswer.com/watch. That's 560theanswer.com/watch. Sponsored in part by myvirago.com.
If you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Bridget, first-time homebuyer, posted this 5-star review about her mortgage experience. Team Hochberg made one of the biggest and nerve-wracking milestones in our life such an enjoyable experience. David and Anna talked us through every step in our home buying journey with a very tight timeline and made us feel comfortable every step of the way. We put in an offer at the beginning of November, and with Team Hochberg's help and expertise, we're able to close on our home by the end of the same month. I couldn't say better things about them and our experience. Team Hochberg all the way. Thank you, Bridget. If you'd like this type of 5-star service on your next mortgage, call Team Hochberg now at 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That number one more time and that website you love, 855-563-2843, and go to 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. This new year, get out of debt now. There are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. In 2025, resolve to get rid of your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. For almost 20 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. To celebrate 2025, you can start for as little as $99 regardless of how much debt you owe. Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and a Christian-owned company. End the endless cycle of payments now. Take a stand. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially cut your monthly payments. Call Christian-owned Total Financial Freedom now for a free consultation at 800-533-6605. That's 800-533-6605. 800-533-6605.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Hey, heard you're getting ready to move.
We just listed our house on the market.
Just make sure you have the right attorney.
Doesn't the real estate agent take care of all that?
They stay involved, but you want to make sure you have a great lawyer that's negotiating the terms, helping resolve inspection items, clearing up title issues, preparing the deed and other documents, and attending the closing.
The attorneys at Nauman & Associates in Elk Grove Village have decades of experience handling real estate transactions every day all over Chicagoland. NALawGroup.com.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Xumo Play.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
640, 39 degrees. Let's get an update on the roads in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. We'll start on the outbound Kennedy, where it remains shut down between Montrose and Lawrence, all due to a multi-vehicle accident with life-threatening injuries. Police continue their investigation into that accident, so the outbound Kennedy remains shut down. You're diverted off onto the outbound Edens Expressway. Tri-State stop and go due to a vehicle fire. 2 left lanes are blocked. It's northbound 294 after Westlake past Willow Road. That's where your big delay is this morning. And in Burr Ridge, report of an accident, Route 83 and Circle. Robert Half research indicates 9 of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring. Robert Half is here to help. They know talent. Visit roberthalf.com today. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Cloudy, breezy, and mild. A high near 50. Overcast with a shower overnight, low 35. Mostly cloudy and 39 right now. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Dan and Amy were talking DOGE and the latest developments in this saga to date. Expected to be long-running right up until July of 26, when it is supposed to be completed with its task of, cutting $2 trillion.
Yeah,
or
that's
finding
the goal.
$2 trillion in savings.
Right before
This
the
exchange over the weekend on CNN between Michael Smerconish and James Fishback. Fishback is one of the Doge boys. He's the one who came up with the Doge dividend concept. And they had an exchange, and the propriety of it, similar to the conversation we had Friday in terms of the idea of 20% of the savings being distributed in $5,000 checks to American taxpayers. Is that good? Or we should just put all of it to a deficit and debt reduction, paying our bills, as it were. And this is how that exchange went. First, Fishback making the argument.
Waste, fraud, and abuse. And by the way, James, I hope that he is. I don't like the approach, but I like the fact that something's being done. There is no money in the till. We owe $36 trillion. We owe $106,000 each. So whatever the savings ought to be, it's not like President Trump's doing us a favor by giving us 20%. Everything ought to go to the debt, because the Peterson people say by 2050, 50% of all revenue is going to go to satisfying interest on the debt. We should be paying the debt. Your response?
My response is this. We should be paying the debt, which is why the DOGE dividend incentivizes every American to call out waste, fraud, and abuse, to lower the budget, to narrow the deficit, and to bring down the debt. Where was this emergency over the debt when we sent $350 billion to Ukraine to be wasted? Where was this emergency, Michael, on CNN when you guys were advocating $7,000 to migrants in Chicago? $7,000 a month per migrant, and now we want to spend $5,000 one time from President Trump to hardworking Americans. The migrants didn't deserve $7,000 a month. Hardworking Americans deserve a $5,000 check with President Trump's name on it.
312-642-5600 turnkey.pro. Angeline, do you agree with Mr. Fishback on the Doge dividend? I'll tell you what, he's certainly right about Smerconish and CNN and the rank hypocrisy. All of a sudden, Smerconish and some of those similarly situated. Of course, I'm against waste, fraud, and abuse. Of course, I like this in concept. Well, it's funny, but you never really pushed it in concept. You never, and to the extent that some politician on the left would offer to move in this direction, like Obama did, like Bill Clinton did with Al Gore writing point, but they never actually moved in that direction. You never checked back with them. You didn't really care that much. It's only something that you're trying to middle now because, as I've argued before, this time it's actually real. So now we do have to confront it. We can't just leave it as a press release and then be party to it dissipating into the ether, never to be heard from again. So, and by the way, Smerconish laughing off CNN and the other leftist media outlets applauding the financing of illegal immigrants in this country. I mean, you can laugh it off. It's not funny. It's true. And what you subsidize, you get more of. So we subsidize illegal immigration, and we got a lot more of it in the Biden administration. And this is how that turns out. Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of California, Governor Patrick Bateman, as he's also known by me.
Yeah.
He has requested $40 billion in federal aid related to the California wildfires. Yet one of his functionaries just offered this testimony to a legislative committee in California.
Enriquez with the California Department of Finance. So in the current year, to cover undocumented individuals in Medi-Cal, we're spending $9.5 billion total funds.
So it's not the $6 billion that people continue to talk about in the media. It's $9.5 billion.
It was a Budget Act number. This is a revised number based on the governor's budget updated estimates. So of the $9.5 billion, $8.4 billion is general fund.
So they spent $9.5 billion just on Medicaid, just on health care services, on illegal immigrants. Now he wants $40 billion from the federal government, from all of us.
I mean,
is that something to laugh off too, Michael Smerconish? And by the way, if California spent $9.5 billion on the health care piece on illegals in the last fiscal year, then you can, as well, we've talked about Ted Dabrowski, you can sort of back of the envelope extrapolate. California is about 3 times the population of Illinois, so we spent about $3 billion just on the healthcare piece
for illegals,
just at the state level, not including what was spent at the city level, not including all of the other spends on housing and food and the rest. Not to mention the social costs of the percentage of people in this country illegally in the state of Illinois, in the state of California, the state of New York, elsewhere who committed crimes.
Right. Preventable crimes. You can't put a price tag on people who lost their lives.
But the big thing is you are profligate with your taxpayers' resources, and then we go to the federal government and we're supposed to make up the difference. And what the DOGE people, and I think the Trump administration's posture is, no, I don't think so. Not anymore. And I think that's the right posture. Here's a Smerconish pushing back on Fishback with respect to this 20% of the savings being returned to Americans. And I'll address the argument he's making after you hear from him, because it's a straw man argument.
I have a very simple premise here. We're $36 trillion in debt. It's a fraud. As much as I want to see us cut waste, fraud, and abuse, it is an absolute fraud to say to the American people, because of what Musk is doing, we have $5,000 to give each of you. The only way we have $5,000 is if we're borrowing it, because we're that far in debt. I'm trying to meet you halfway, which is simply to say, what a good thing that finally we're going to look at waste, fraud, and abuse, albeit it shouldn't be in this haphazard fashion. But let's at least be honest with the American people that whatever we quote unquote save, we already owe. Now I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then I'm going to say, see you later. Go ahead.
Michael, let me say this. We're fellow Americans. We care about this issue, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to come on this program, but I got to speak truth here. At the end of the day, we've got to send the money back that is saved, just 20% of it. The other 80% goes down to paying the national debt and narrowing the deficit. To your point, yes, there has been a fraud against the American people, the Green New Scam, Ukraine, the migrant crisis. Their taxpayer dollars were sent abroad, were not sent at home, were not spent in America, not on health care, not on education. That ends with President Trump's leadership today. He is delivering on his promise of major government reform, Michael. The DOGE dividend plan is bold, and Americans support it.
Well, the straw man argument that Smerconish is making is that anyone is arguing that we don't have $36 trillion in debt, and actually that's just the beginning of it, and then another $100 trillion or approximately thereof in unfunded liabilities. Yeah, we know. We know what's been piled up. This is why this is so necessary as a starting point. And then you got to get to the real big issues, which is how the entitlement programs work or don't, more to the point. We know. The point here is not just what Fishback said about what creates, incentivize Americans to become whistleblowers for more waste, fraud, and abuse, but incentivize them to understand, as I argued on Friday, that, look, when we reduce the size and scope of government that you don't think is particularly serving your interest, you don't think you're getting a particularly good ROI from government, that means you get some of the money that you earn back and you can put that to the imperatives that you have for making ends meet. And we're going to move in that direction of you keep more and you make your spending decisions, and you're also are held to account to your spending decisions, the provision of the things you need, just like the government is going to be, or at least more so, not completely, but more so. That's the point. The point is encouraging this sort of mentality to take hold. The great von Mises observation: he who wants to improve conditions must propagate a new mentality, not merely a new institution. This isn't just about institutionalizing DOGE. It's about getting people to think differently about themselves vis-a-vis the government. But Smerconish doesn't get that because now all of a sudden he's a deficit and debt hawk. Yeah, my ass. Lee and Hammond, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, at $37 trillion in debt, I don't really care about getting $5,000 back. I'm worried about the future of the dollar. We're like approaching Weimar Republic situation right now. And how long is it going to be before the dollar is dumped? And if that happens, where are we going from there?
Yeah, it's not going to be anytime soon that the dollar is dumped, so get a grip. I know there's a lot of people that are sort of think they're monitoring the BRIC situation and there's something afoot and the dollar's going to cease being the world's reserve currency. Not anytime soon, not when 65% of global business transactions are done in the dollar. I'm not saying that that since the creation of the Fed, the value of the dollar hasn't been incredibly devalued through terrible monetary and fiscal policy, because of course it has. But if the idea that we're going to sort of be in stasis and we're just going to have DOGE, even if you got 12 years, let's say it's Trump for these 4 and then Vance for 8 more, and maybe a Republican, who knows, but that you're just going to be in stasis and it's just going to sort of winnow away, and we're going to pay down the debt and everything's going to be hunky-dory without sort of continuing to incentivize the American people to think differently about their orientation towards government. Because there's a lot of Republicans who believe in government as a force for good, too, including sort of J.D. Vance, frankly, which I argued during the general election. People don't want to hear it, but we're going to get to that point at some point. They do. So the alignment of incentives, the driving of a particular philosophy on how government's role in a free society, what it should and shouldn't be in the business of doing. We have so far to go on that job. 20% of $2 trillion in savings being distributed one time, not a big deal. What's a big deal is getting Americans to start thinking about, is this something the government should be doing or attempting to do or not? And if not, then, well, yeah, let's get rid of it. And let's see some agencies go away and some programs go away and those constituencies go away and just see if the American people get along quite fine with it, because then you start establishing precedents. See, we can eliminate a program and we can still provide the particular service. We can probably actually improve it if we provide people their money back to address the situation themselves, allow the private sector to step in where government has crowded them out. Let's get people oriented that way. We've gone towards Leviathan for these many generations. It's not going to turn on a dime. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
MyPillow is excited to announce that they're having the first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 30% on their brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one Mike has worn every day for 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get the 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. The initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And the best-selling standard MyPillow, just $14.98. To take advantage of the first ever mega sale, go to mypillow.com or call 800-489-0201. That's 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship has sailed because right now every order ships absolutely free. MyPillow.com, promo code LIBERTY.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Paul Jenkins, owner of Bancroft Architects and Engineers, a service-disabled veteran-owned small business providing design solutions for clients, including the VA. When looking for a trusted banking partner, Bancroft was lucky to find that partner in Signature Bank in 2015. With Signature, personal service goes beyond a login and a PIN number. My staff and I have the comfort of knowing that we're dealing with real people who know our business and care about us as individuals. Signature helped finance our new state-of-the-art facility, and Bancroft looks forward to further expanding business opportunities for disabled veterans and historically disadvantaged communities.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
In 2012, the Journal of Cognition and Emotion published a study that showed that we make a decision to trust a person within 100 milliseconds of seeing their face. Making a good first impression has never been more important, and you can make that positive impression with a professional headshot from Tom Killoran Photography. Whether you're a job seeker trying to land your next position, or you're looking to build your business by connecting with prospective clients and customers, you need a high-quality headshot to use with your resume, portfolio, website, or other marketing materials. The experts at Tom Killoran Photography can work with you to capture the exact look you need for your professional presentation. Tom Killoran Photography is also the official photographer for AM 560 The Answer. To learn more and to see a sample of their work, just visit KilloranPhotography.com. That's KILLORAN Photography.com, or call them at 708-361-0025. Tom Killoran Photography, capturing important life moments for over 30 years.
AM 560 The Answer.
Dan and Amy, one more remark on DOGE. We'll return to it a little bit later because we've got our next installment of Illinois DOGE stories. But you have to starve Leviathan. That's ultimately what you need to do. I mean, it's that quote, defunding the government. But this idea you're going to consistently get people that are committed to paying down deficits or not incurring deficits and paying down debt, that is very Pollyannish. So one of the things you do is returning money to the people. That takes it out of politicians' hands, forces them to make tougher decisions. That's what you want to do. It's always about putting pressure on politicians, getting the wrong people to do the right thing. That's the challenge in politics, as Milton Friedman observed.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:07, the prospects for peace in Eastern Europe. We'll get an assessment from our friend Stephen Bucci, Heritage Foundation, 7:07.
And Germany has a new leader. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
The trial of the Highland Park shooting suspect is set to begin. A vigil held for a Chicago woman killed in a stabbing. There's one in custody this morning after a woman was killed in a South Side shooting. Bulls lose to the Suns. Cubs beat the Rangers. The White Sox fall to the Royals in spring baseball. WIND Chicago News Time is 7.
It's been 3 years since Russia invaded Ukraine. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. And as President Trump pushes to end the war, his national security advisor just told Fox.
Frustrations are high, frankly. The United States has stepped forward for Ukraine in a historic and tremendous way.
And Mike Waltz is pushing a deal to let the U.S. share the profits from Ukraine's rare earth minerals that
recoups these hundreds of billions of dollars for the Ukrainian people and for the American taxpayer.
Zelensky's rejected that offer. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, saying there's no U.S. security guarantees. He's also offering to resign if there's a peace deal that allows Ukraine to join NATO. Waltz says that is not an option now. Some European leaders are gathered in Ukraine to show show support. France's president, though, will go to the White House today.
Emmanuel Macron faces a tall order today, convincing a skeptical President Trump that abandoning Ukraine does not serve the United States' best interest. He is expected to tell President Trump not to appear weak in front of Russian President Vladimir Putin. European leaders are concerned they were not included in the United States' initial talks last week.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. Israeli tanks have rolled into the West Bank, going after terror sites there in what Palestinians are calling a dangerous escalation. Meanwhile, Special U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff will return to the region this week for talks on the next phase of the Gaza ceasefire, telling CBS Face the Nation they want all the hostages out and
a permanent ceasefire, a cessation of all violence, and in addition to that, the fact that Hamas cannot be allowed to come back into the government.
While federal workers scrambled to respond to an email by today demanding they detail their accomplishments at work last week, DOGE's Elon Musk posted on X this morning, employees ignoring the Trump order to return to the office will be put on leave this week. Pope Francis remains in critical condition, battling pneumonia and now kidney issues. But the Vatican says the 88-year-old Pope slept tonight and is alert. America's listening to Fox News.
39 degrees at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer, good morning. I'm Mike Scott. The trial of the Highland Park July 4th parade shooting suspect gets started today. Robert Cremo III is accused of killing 7 people and wounding dozens more at the suburban Independence Day parade in 2022. Jury selection is also set to begin today in the trial of the Plainfield landlord charged with the murder of a 6-year-old boy in 2023. Joseph Chuba faces charges of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and committing a hate crime. Prosecutors argue that he stabbed the child and his mother in October of 2023 because they were Muslim. Another push is underway in this state to change the Illinois Constitution's flatter tax to a tax with higher rates. Here's AM 560's Kevin Bessler.
Senate Joint Resolution Constitutional Amendment 4 would also formally replace language in the Illinois Constitution to allow for a so-called graduated tax system, prompting critics like Republican State Representative Martin McLaughlin to warn such a change only sets taxpayers up for more abuse.
To revisit a progressive tax when we have half the growth of our surrounding states, we have had the governor just admit we need to restrict spending, is exactly the wrong idea at the wrong time.
The proposal comes just 4 years after voters roundly rejected similar legislation, despite Governor J.B. Pritzker pumping upwards of $50 million of his own money into a campaign aimed at getting the measure over the finish line. McLaughlin says such a measure will push business owners and higher earners out of the state.
People leaving Illinois on an economic basis are wealthier than people coming to Illinois, and there's a net loss.
Illinois is one of 23 states to have or be in the process of implementing a flat income tax, and one of only 4 where the tax structure is protected by the state constitution. I'm Kevin Bessler.
Chicago Blackhawks organist Frank Pellico worked his last game with the team on Sunday night after spending 33 seasons with the organization. Chicago sports, Bulls lost to the Suns over the weekend. They take on the 76ers tonight. Spring baseball, the Cubs rally to beat the Rangers, and they take on the Padres today. The Southsiders take on the Rangers this afternoon after a 4-3 spring training loss to Kansas City. The news is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. If you've been getting high quotes for dental implants, it's possible to save 90% on average. See if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher sees more corruption uncovered.
The DOGE team discovered that FEMA sent $59 million last week to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants. These people are out of their minds. Can you tell me why in the world we would reward illegals with free housing in luxury hotels?
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Why pay more for prescriptions? Stop overpaying and start saving with SingleCare. It's easy. Find your prescription on singlecare.com, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and start saving. SingleCare works at pharmacies nationwide and is completely free to use, whether you have insurance or not. So the next time you fill a prescription, check SingleCare to make sure you're getting the best price. Take control of your prescription costs. Go to singlecare.com or download the free app today.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Michaela's Mobile Spa, Michaela! Michaela got a quick business insurance quote from Progressive and chose from over 30 customizable coverages. Sure, it helps she's her only employee and does literally everything. But while others would rest on their laurels, Michaela was hard at work saving big. So take that, hypothetical other employee who doesn't exist. Be your own Michaela. See if you could save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage is not available in all states or for all vehicles and coverage selections.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484. 800-839-8484.
7:07 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Outbound Kennedy remains shut down between Montrose and Lawrence, all due to an investigation into a much earlier accident. All traffic diverted on to the outbound Edens Expressway. Tri-State, solid traffic northbound between Central to Willow, where there is a vehicle fire and 3 left lanes are blocked. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, cloudy skies, breezy, mild day, high today 50. Cloudy with a shower in the area tonight, low 35. Partly sunny day tomorrow, the high 52. And then mostly cloudy, mild, some occasional rain on Wednesday, high Wednesday 51. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
39 and clouds at O'Hare. Next news 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Health Quest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. President again, Trump, and his Treasury Secretary, in my view, doing a pretty good little ham and egg routine over the weekend, discussing the proposed deal with Ukraine that would, in part, provide the impetus for a cessation of hostilities. Trump was on Brian Kilmeade's program, and he had this to say about both Zelensky as well as his Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent's trip to Ukraine to put the proposal to Zelensky. Take a listen.
If I won the election, which I did, it's a war that never, ever would have started. So I've been watching for years, and I've been watching him negotiate with no cards. He has no cards. And you get sick of it. You just get sick of it. And I've had it. And he then made a deal with us for rare earth and things. And who knows what rare earth is worth, but at least it's something. And who knows what it's worth. Who knows if they even have it. But we made a deal with rare earth, and Secretary of Treasury, a very good guy, actually went there. And they couldn't even come close to getting a deal done. And frankly, I wish he didn't go there, waste all of his time like that. But they couldn't get close. They met.
Right.
And then when he wanted to get it closed, he was unable to meet him again. But so it was just a wasted trip, a dangerous trip, too. I didn't like it that he was doing it because...
Besant was on with Maria Bartiromo over the weekend, and he provided his perspective on the background of the proposed deal. And also struck a bit more of an optimistic tone in terms of whether or not he believes the deal can get done.
The first part of this is a partnership between Ukraine and the U.S. that involves strategic minerals, energy, and state-owned enterprises where we set up a partnership and we are only looking forward. It is a win-win. President Trump created this idea himself. It is a win-win. We make money if the Ukrainian people make money, and I believe that with the United States of America, our know-how, our businesses willing to come in and provide capital, that we can accelerate the Ukrainian growth trajectory and take in substantial monies for the U.S. taxpayers and get the Ukrainian economy on a great growth trajectory. I do expect that President Zelensky will sign. What it does not include is a military guarantee. But what it does include is an implicit guarantee that if the United States of America is heavily invested in the economic future, I call it an economic security guarantee. The more assets that U.S. companies have on the ground, the bigger interest that the U.S. has in the future of Ukrainian economy doing well, the more security it creates for the Ukrainian people, and the higher the return for the U.S. taxpayer. Again, President Trump has structured this win-win deal, and it's unfortunate that after my meeting with President Zelensky and then his meeting in Munich with Vice President Vance, Secretary of State Rubio, the idea here of my trip to Ukraine and then the meeting in Munich, we want to intertwine the U.S. and Ukrainian economies for the benefit of both. And unfortunately, President Zelensky seems to have put a bit of daylight between us, but I am sure in the long run or in the short run, there is no daylight. The deal will be signed, and this will give President Trump a lever, and it will be a strong signal to Russian leadership that the U.S. is in a serious partnership with the Ukrainian people.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. An economic security arrangement, to the extent that our economic interests are intertwined, is to the extent that we'll defend them, and it provides disincentive for additional Russian incursions. And Besant went on to say the fact that Putin doesn't like this means Zelensky should.
Is common to a lot of misperceptions. The Russians hate this deal. That the morning that I arrived in Ukraine, to get into Kyiv, you fly to Poland, you take a 10-hour night train in. The Russians unfortunately bombed Kyiv. There was a missile barrage 4 hours before I got there. It was the first time that such a barrage had taken place since November. So I think that was a strong signal from Russian leadership that they don't like this deal because it gives President Trump more negotiating leverage. So if the Russians don't like it, my view is Ukrainians should.
Well, many on this side of the Atlantic also don't like it. The foreign policy establishment types and their mouthpieces like Obama's favorite Republican David Brooks, who characterized the proposal this way.
Look at what Donald Trump has been doing to Ukraine over the last week. He sends the Treasury Secretary in there, and he hands him a piece of paper, said, basically hand us over 50% of your mineral rights. That is, I'm making you an offer you can't refuse. Mm-hmm. That is what, in ancient Rome, they would go into a little country and say, give us all your money or we'll kill your women. Like that was like an imperial power saying, tribute, give us tribute. That's essentially what Donald Trump just did to Vladimir Putin. And initially, Putin said, hell no. But now it could be an offer he can't refuse because he needs the Americans. And so now they're, I guess, coming close to a deal because we're taking a country that was invaded, that bravely resisted on the behalf of the Western Alliance. We're saying pay up. And it's, I don't have words to describe.
He's very indignant, David Brooks. So is that what this is? Imperial tribute? Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Now visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, Thanks for joining us.
It's always my pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for having me back.
So a deal that ties America's and Ukraine's economic interests together and provides security implicit as part of that, or imperial tribute. He's pulling a Don Corleone, an offer you can't refuse.
Now, look, the Dems are so beside themselves with drama to try and find some way to make Trump evil again that they're getting more fanciful than ever. Is this a very unique and very different way of approaching international relations than the Dems would ever use or previous presidents would ever use? Yeah, absolutely. This is pretty unique. This is President Trump trying to square that circle that he's promised the American people. He's not going to do this sort of thing. He's not going to do long-term wars. He's not going to, enable people to fight for decades to do this stuff. And it's got to be beneficial for America. But he's also trying to give the Ukrainians a way to deal with their problem with Russia being in there, but in a way that gets us to peace. Look, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but he's made a promise he's going to do things differently. And gee, big surprise, Donald Trump is doing his best to try and come through with that promise. And it's being done in a way that, as you point out, sort of drives the conventional thinking establishment crazy. I say let's give it a shot.
Well, I mean, the other approach, and this, is coming from Zelensky, too, who said, the $100 billion, $350 billion, whatever the number is, nobody really seems to know. And they also don't seem to know where a bunch of those resources are. Those were grants, not loans. And so we don't owe the Americans anything. Well, that's fine if you want to take that attitude. I'm sure that certainly was the posture of the Biden administration, so I can understand his reliance on that sort of approach, which has been the approach for America for a long time, which is to write blank checks with other people's money. And Donald Trump says, well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do it that way, especially when then they're going to turn right around at some point when a deal is cut, even if it wasn't on our terms, and they're going to say, help us, reconstruct our devastated country. And so, this is a way to sort of end run where we're going to end up anyway.
Well, look, Zelensky's job is to cut the best deals he can possibly cut for Ukraine. President Trump's job is not to do that. It's to cut the best deals for America that still protects our interests, still keeps Russia from, being enabled and at least thinking it can take over other parts of Europe. And he's working every possible lever to try and get there. And if he can do it in a way that, gets some income back to the United States, because remember, we're still trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. So it's not like we're flush with cash so we could, just be taking care of everybody. Things are getting better. They've gotten better just in the couple of weeks since Trump's been in office, but we're not fixed yet financially. So President Trump says, fine, you want our help, it's going to cost you. And we'll work with you, but here's the rules we're playing under now. It's different than it was before. Now, if you don't like that, that's fine, but, it's President Trump's job to make good his promises and try and do what's right for the United States. And hopefully we can help Ukraine in the process.
Well, what do you make? Yesterday, Zelensky came out and said he's willing to resign, to sacrifice himself in exchange for NATO membership. Do you believe him? Because he seems pretty self-centered to offer himself up like that.
Well, most people who run countries are self-centered, frankly. It takes that big an ego to think, I can do this. But I think he's probably serious. I mean, I can be real cynical and say, well, maybe his bank account's full already, so he doesn't need anything else, so he's ready to pull pitch and go.
Back to being a comedian.
It could be that he really, he loves his country. He's been willing to fight with them, stay there, put himself at risk, and he means this. If he can get peace, if he can get a security guarantee, he's willing to step off the world stage. I don't know. You can't tell what's really inside a guy's head or heart.
Yeah, but isn't that a proposal? I mean, that's sort of a blue sky proposal, isn't it? It's a proposal he knows is very unlikely to be accepted. Forget by Russia. I'm talking about from the European countries and NATO.
Yeah, I think this is it's a gesture. It's a look. This is how serious I am kind of proposal. I really hope you don't call me on it and ask me to do it.
Yeah, or I know you won't.
That's what leaders do. And I think we need to let the Trump administration work these unconventional methodologies and see where it goes. Because, frankly, the traditional way has not worked. So something else will work.
With respect to what Bissent said, is that, I mean, it's simplistic, but is he, generally speaking, is that your belief that if Russia doesn't like what's been proposed, then Zelensky should?
Well, it's at least an indicator. I mean, if Russia's thrilled about it, it's probably not a good deal for Ukraine. So if Russia's ticked about it, if I was Ukraine, I'd at least look a little deeper to see, okay, what's upsetting them? Maybe this is a good deal for us. Let's look into it. So, yeah, it's not just a switch, but it is kind of an indicator. If Russia doesn't like it, it may be good for Ukraine, but not a guarantee. And, again, America's job is not to do what Ukraine wants. It's to do what's best for America. And if we can help Ukraine, since they were the aggrieved party here initially, then that's fine. But that should not be the sole driver of American policy.
How much stock do you put in this hand-wringing going on? David Brooks called it survival of the fittest, this mafioso tripolar world where American controls its region and Russia controls its and China controls its, with respect to the perception that that Trump wants America to be a backstop as opposed to the lead when it comes to the NATO security alliance. How much stock do you put in the hand-wringing about this? Like, we're sort of abdicating the world stage. We're only going to serve in a supervisory capacity, if you will, and it's time for Germany under the new president Merz and Macron and Sturmer and Western Europe to step up, and this is really a destabilizing turn of events.
Well, to be honest with you, coming from Brooks and anybody who worked for Obama, I find that a little bit of a ludicrous criticism, given that the Obama policy was, let's lead from behind. That'll work.
Right.
Like we did in Libya, the disaster there. So those guys are talking out of both sides of their faces. I don't really consider their comments even worth listening to. They are literally just trying to put whatever stick they can into the spokes of the Trump administration to try and derail the momentum that they have. Let's evaluate the policies. Let's see where it goes, how the negotiations go. Again, Trump has been a pretty darned effective negotiator. Look, between you and I didn't like his comments last week that, Zelensky started this and he's a dictator. I think that those were mistakes on Trump's part. He should not have said that. They were inaccurate, and it was clearly he was ticked about the response that he got, and he spoke out of anger. But he's taking a breath. His people are in there. General Kellogg's in there talking to people, the Treasury Secretary. Look, that to me shows that he's making a pretty good effort to try and get where he thinks this thing should go. Let's give him a chance to try and do it. But, the Dems just disregard those kind of comments. they failed completely in this stuff. So they're really not in a position to give anybody any advice.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as Army Special Forces officer, top Pentagon official, now a visiting fellow of the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thank you as always.
It's my pleasure, guys. Thank you for having me back on the show.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Come on with this, people. Move it!
Did you really think you could make that company deliver yourself?
Oh, I cannot handle any more traffic.
You could be getting much more done at your place of business.
I've wasted 45 minutes and now this place is gonna close.
Time is money. Let Quick Delivery Service take on the traffic hassle for you. They'll deliver almost anything, from large pallets of materials to important documents, or both. No forms, no labels, no scanning. Just tell Quick Delivery Service where it's going, they'll pick it up, and get it to your destination quickly. Your cargo delivery is tracked in real time with GPS. Notifications are delivered right to your inbox. Visit QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. Or you can deliver like this.
Seriously, another train?
Or get your delivery there on time with QuickDelivery.com. Or call 847-534-2244. 847-534-2244.
All right, people come up to me all the time and ask me about QC Kinetics treatments, and they want to know if they should consider it for their joint pain. So if you're wondering if you're a good candidate, let me see what you answer to these questions, or your answers to these questions. Is your quality of life impacted by chronic pain in your knees, hips, shoulders, or other joints? Do you have trouble sleeping, walking, doing day-to-day things like getting in and out of your car? Do you want to avoid surgery and all the pain, the long recovery, and the uncertainty that comes with it? And do you miss doing things you love because joint pain is holding you back? Like, again, walking, golfing, jogging, doing yoga, playing pickleball. So if you answered yes to any of these questions, I bet you're a great candidate. So please don't wait. Contact our good friends at QC Kinetics right now and ask for your free, yes, free consultation. Learn how the latest advances in regenerative medicine can get you lasting pain relief with no drugs, no surgery, and no downtime. Saturday appointments available. Call 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. Again, 312-809-5955.
So how's the separation going? Are you guys able to work things out?
No. I think we're headed for divorce.
That sucks. Going to be an expensive legal battle?
Well, no, that's one thing we agree on, actually. Arbitration.
Arbitration? Like mediation?
Sort of, but better. We'll have a firm decision.
Oh, that's easier. Who's your arbitrator?
Bert Hochberg.
That attorney at Schiller, DeCanto, and Fleck?
Yeah, senior partner. Comes highly recommended.
Are you facing divorce or a family law issue? Burton S. Hochberg offers arbitration services, a dispute resolution process that will save you time, money, and the complexity of litigation. Let Burton hear and resolve your claims with choices that best suit you and yours. To discuss, call Bert directly, or even better, have your attorney call Bert at 773-255-6150. That's 773-255-6150. Again, 773-255-6150. No one knows arbitration like Bert Hochberg. Why go through a difficult divorce? Call Bert at Schiller, DeCanto, and Fleck, Chicago's preeminent family law firm since 1981.
With the worst flu season in 15 years, you need an immune system boost. The stronger your immune system, the stronger your body fights and defends against that and that. So get Virago. Virago Immune Enhancement Support is a unique blend of 23 nutraceuticals, ingredients that have been available as individual nutraceuticals, but now working in synergy to maximize their effects to the immune system. Recommended by medical physicians and other healthcare professionals in the Chicagoland area, Virago is the nutraceutical cocktail for immune support, developed to strengthen your immune system for quick response to immune challenges, for short and long-term immunity. For antiviral, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and anti-allergy effects, it even protects your heart, kidneys, and liver, all in a unique liquid supplement for better absorption. Order online at myvirago.com. That's myvirago.com. It's the go-to choice for immune enhancement. That's myvirago.com. And use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Quality ingredients for optimum health. Trust Virago, making America healthy again.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, we need some help. Our producer, Justin, his car got broken into by some honor student, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
In the East Dundee area, who was, I guess, kicking out windows and stealing what he could from cars in Justin's, the parking lot of his place. Mm-hmm. So, I don't. We got anybody see any suspicious characters out East Dundee way? Let us know. Maybe we'll have to post a video or something that Justin has. The
I know.
footage.
And then he's, his wife's, they're expecting a baby soon, so I'm worried about their safety. Should he move? I don't know. I'm giving him the stink eye, Justin.
We'll have to send one of the AM560 tactical teams up there.
Yes. All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:37. Well, actually, we have a Trump Kathy Lee Gifford story that is appropriate for the situation that Justin has out there in East Dundee. But also we have our latest from latest in the Illinois DOGE series from Prairie State Wire. The DOGE profile. I mean, we don't actually have a DOGE, but if we did have a DOGE, these could be some of the NGO targets. We gave you the Indo-American Center last week. The Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, very much in the news these days. Illinois DOGE profile number 2 at 7:37.
But now let's head into the newsroom first. Seeing the images now finally of that horrible accident on the outbound Kennedy near the junction. Is it open yet, Mr. Mike Scott?
Not open to the best of our knowledge right now. 39 degrees, and we'll have a look at that and the southbound tri-state with big delays this morning as well in just a moment. Today is the day the Trump administration set to put all civil servants employed by USAID on administrative leave. The move comes as Elon Musk has reportedly told federal workers to report what they did last week. Today marks 3 years since the beginning of the war between Russia and Ukraine. President Trump welcoming French President Emmanuel Macron to the White House today. Macron has made clear that Ukraine will be a key topic. A planned operation by multiple federal agencies, including Immigration and Customs Enforcement, was disrupted by local activists in California's San Gabriel Valley. Pennsylvania's authorities say a man who held staff at a Pittsburgh hospital at gunpoint before killing a police officer had visited that hospital before the shooting. Police in York County say 49-year-old Diogenes Ortiz was holding hostages at UPMC Memorial in the ICU when he threatened to kill one in the hallway. Several officers then opened fire. Officer Andrew Duarte and the gunman were killed. Well, thanks to A-Rod, a Bucknell University student is $10,000 richer. The retired Major League Baseball third baseman, Alex Rodriguez, just happened to be at a Bucknell basketball game against Army Sunday when he stepped up at halftime and sunk a half-court shot for the lucky recipient, who then pocketed $10,000 and then said he would donate most of it to charity and to help out his parents. Trial of the Highland Park July 4 parade shooting suspect gets started today. Jury selection begins in Lake County Court for the trial of Robert Cremo III. And jury selection is also set to begin today in the trial of a Plainfield landlord, all charged with the murder of a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy in 2023. Joseph Chuba faces charges of first-degree murder and other charges. Bulls take on the 76ers tonight. Blackhawks skate at Utah tomorrow. Spring baseball, Cubs rally for a win over the Rangers. They take on the Padres today, while the White Sox lost to KC, and they take on the Rangers this afternoon. The Fire open up their 2025 campaign with a loss to Columbus. The news, a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% on average. See if you qualify, AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The first weeks of the new Trump administration have been full speed ahead, making America great again.
It's going to only get better.
And on Tuesday, March 4th, President Trump will take a victory lap when he addresses Congress and the nation. And AM 560 is throwing a watch party.
They tell me it's very exciting.
Join us for dinner and President Trump's speech on March 4th in Rolling Meadows. Get your tickets at 560theanswer.com/watch. That's 560theanswer.com/watch. Sponsored in part by Opum Tax Advocates and attorney Stephen Leahy.
There is a place in northern Illinois that people have come from all around the globe seeking treasure.
It's amazing. I didn't know what to expect, but when I got there, I was surrounded by all kinds of gold and silver.
An actual place where you're surrounded by treasure?
I've known that gold and silver were a good investment, but I really didn't want to buy it through the mail. At Fox Valley Coins, I basically walked in, picked out what I wanted, paid cash, and walked out with gold and silver.
Walk in with paper and walk out with actual gold and silver bars. For decades, Fox Valley Coins has traded paper dollars for actual gold and silver. They buy and sell. The treasure map is available at foxvalleycoins.com. They are on Route 59, 1 light north of I-88 in Naperville, Illinois. Again, for info and the map, seek foxvalleycoins.com.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
7:37. Let's get an update on the roads in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. We'll start on the outbound Kennedy, where there's jam-ups all the way from downtown out to the junction, all due to the Kennedy being shut off between Montrose and Lawrence, all due to a much earlier multi-vehicle accident with life-threatening injuries. The accident investigation continues, and all traffic is being diverted on to the outbound Edens Expressway. Northbound 55, stop and go between Route 126 and Route 53, all due to an accident, and there is a second crash reported in that mix near Weber Road. Tri-State all gummed up. Northbound 294 jammed between Dempster and Willow with a vehicle fire on the left-hand shoulder. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Cloudy, breezy, and mild, a high near 50 today. Mostly cloudy and 39. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Illinois DOGE series installment number 2. You can find it at Prairie State Wire. I'll tweet it out, X it out. Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Been in the news lately.
Oh, yeah. I saw Sarah Schulte at ABC7 did a story on it.
Yeah, they did a story on Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce urging Latino business owners to make succession plans in the event that you or your workforce is contacted by ICE.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll play a clip from that story. This is all the Chicago Press Corps doing their best to promote Chicago and Illinois' status as sanctuary jurisdictions. And we'll get into the details here, but the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, $11.5 million in state taxpayer support from 2020 to 2025. 43 separate contracts and grants totaling $11.481 million. That's according to the Illinois State Comptroller's Office. And we'll get into a little bit of that, but boy, that's a lot of money for a Chamber of Commerce. The public sector is financing the private sector, but of course, in the name of identitarian politics, so it's all copacetic. Here's that ABC7 report.
There are over 140,000 Hispanic businesses in the state of Illinois, quite a few owned by undocumented residents. Today, the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce launched a campaign to make sure that all Latino businesses are protected from ICE. From the kitchen to the bar, immigrant business owners make up nearly a quarter of self-employed individuals in Illinois, pumping almost $3 billion into the economy, according to the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. But not all owners have plans to keep their businesses going if they're deported.
Payroll, bills to pay, all that stuff. I'm the person who's dealing with that. So, yeah, I am worried every single day.
Angel Diaz is undocumented. However, he is in the final stages of getting his U.S. citizenship. Bringing his grandmother's recipes from Mexico City to Chicago, Diaz opened the Spilson restaurant by himself 9 years ago.
I mean, I've been working hard for so long, and I've been here for more than 25 years. You know, I feel like this is where I should be, you know?
Despite Diaz's longevity here and economic contributions to the United States, the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and others are urging businesses to prepare for a succession plan in case their owners are deported.
I thought she just reported that he's in the final stages of getting his citizenship. So does he have some sort of legal status here or not? The whole story is strange to me, but what's not strange, what's very straightforward, is that you have taxpayer dollars being funneled to nonprofits to do the left's political work.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You could also text us on that very same line.
$11.5 million in state grants over the last 5 years. The last year for which IRS 990 filings are available, the revenue was $3.426 million. Government grants made up about 66% of that revenue. So two-thirds of their budget was taxpayer funds. Employee salaries, $1.4 million. That's 42% of the budget. Okay. And they've seen an explosion in support from state taxpayers over the last several years. You're going to love this, though. The history of this organization. It dates back to, the late 80s. Al Gonzalez was indicted and charged with extortion, obstruction of justice, and lying to a grand jury, as well as failure to file tax returns as part of Operation Greylord. Served 3 years in prison after he acknowledged he solicited a $67,000 bribe from an undercover FBI agent to fix a Cook County case by paying off police officers and judges. In 1990, 1 year after he was released from prison, Al Gonzalez founded a minority business enterprise. Oh, sure, MBEs and WBs, no corruption there in Chicago. Called Gonzalez Construction, as well as a nonprofit organization to lobby for more government grant and loan programs for MBEs. It was called the Mexican American Chamber of Commerce of Illinois, which is now known as the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Gonzalez had a partner.
Who?
In this, unofficial, but a political partner. A gentleman named Ed Burke. Have you heard of him?
Oh, that guy. I think I'm familiar with his work. Yes.
Al Gonzalez's wife, Rose, worked for Burke, who, of course, is right now in prison for racketeering, bribery, and extortion. So they have a lot of interests in common. Gonzalez Construction received tens of millions in city contracts. Its revenues grew from $256,000 in '94 to $20.5 million in 2002. It's a real growth spurt. Burke even partnered with Gonzalez Construction on a Southwest Side residential development in the 2000s that included Burke's home. The Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce changed its name in 2002 to the Mexican American Chamber. No longer is lobbies for Burke or for Gonzalez Construction because 2/3 of its money comes from the state. So now what it does is lobby for the left's political agenda at the state level, which, of course, emanates from the city. It went, Juan Ochoa, former flack for Ramiro Gonzalez, and then, Juan Ochoa, who was part of HDO, and then was at McPeer, right under Blagojevich. He was a past president, and then that went to Omar Duque, who was a flack for Cicero President Ramiro Gonzalez. And over the course of the last decade or so, the organization's taken a much more aggressive posture, lobbying for amnesty for illegal aliens, more diversity programs, and so on and so forth. And then more recently, just last spring, Angelica Alfaro was installed as its government affairs director. She worked for 3 years as a state lobbyist for the University of Illinois, ran for state senate, worked for Rahm Emanuel. Mm-hmm. And under the current president, DePaulo, they have taken political positions, not just succession planning and seminars on how to deal with ICE, really evade and avoid. Also called out McDonald's for ending its DIE program, things like that. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. Answer line, this is the sort of thing that is being unearthed. Nothing will be done about it because of the political constitution of the state assembly as well as the city council. But it's just worth knowing. And the history of it. Al Gonzalez and Ed Burke, with great champions of minority business development and so on and so forth. Of course, look at Burke for many, many years, once the neighborhood changed, represented, the back of the arts neighborhood. It was a supermajority Latino district, of course. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. It's wonderful to see the Irish getting along.
I just never knew that the state of Illinois does not require immigration status to get a business license.
Why would it? We're a sanctuary jurisdiction.
I know. But the chamber said it's quite a few, people that I had no idea. But this seems like an organization that's easy to put to rest. It's an easy cut.
No, it's not. No, because it does the political work for the political party in power. Those technical assistant programs to help non-white owned businesses get tollway contracts, for example. That's one of the things they did.
That's right.
From 2020 to 2025, the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has received about $3.7 million to recruit attendees to classes that teach non-white business owners how to bid on tollway contracts. The events are in classes are typically 1 to 2 hours long. Many are online. $3.7 million is a lot of money for those classes. Anyway, January 13th, 18 participants in a 6-week estimating program celebrated their graduation at the Auburn Gresham Healthy Lifestyle Hub on 839 West 79th Street in Chicago. Diversity, equity, and inclusion remain a top priority for the Illinois Tollway under the leadership of Tollway Board Chairman Arnie Rivera. Of course they do. Of course they do. Programs to $5.3 million, 27 grants totaling $5.3 million for what? Programs to benefit the public. Those are the best kind of programs. Let's not get bogged down in the details. No. They got $5.3 million to do programs that benefit the public. It's fine. 2 grants for $809,000 to promote tourism. Sure. Who's against promoting tourism? $1.5 million for financial assistance. What kind of financial assistance? Don't ask uncomfortable questions. I'd have to rustle up Al Gonzalez to answer them. That's something. But that's the ultimately all this speaks to. First of all, there is no transparency, and you don't get the sort of disclosure from 501c3s that take taxpayer money that you should. And what this speaks to in case it's not obvious, maybe there's somebody listening who's not familiar with Illinois and Chicago politics. It's exactly what I said, and I'll repeat myself because I need to bore it into people's heads. It's using your money to pay for the political operations of the ruling class. Some Republicans get thrown in there too, just for, good measure. But it's obviously dominated by the new Marxists, the Dems. Starting from them, and very much tracks with how the power structure has changed. It started with machine politicians like Al Gonzalez and Ed Burke, and now it's Marxists for open borders, like the leadership of the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, just like it is the leadership of the General Assembly. What's happening in the state, at the state level, in state government, of course, is also happening at the NGO level, the nonprofits, because one is feeding the other. And you're paying on both sides of it. Grant in Rockford.
Good morning, you guys. As a white, middle-aged male, I'd love to start a business and have somebody throw me some money to help me for it, but Lord knows that will never happen in Illinois. And also, who is helping these people with the legal stuff? How do you start a business without a Social Security number? I can't go anywhere without having to give my frickin' social somewhere. Somebody, somewhere, legally, lots of somebodies, no doubt, is helping them. And,
well, you should set up the Illinois Honkies Chamber of Commerce, and maybe you could get some support services.
That would be hysterical.
I love it. Honkies.
Thanks for the call.
Help
Grant.
for honkies, yes.
Yeah.
You can
you just fill out like I'm going to promote tourism.
Yeah.
I'm going to do some financial assistance. I got big ideas to do things that are in the public's good. I mean, that's got to be worth a couple million. I want to do some public good too. Give me $2 million. Neil in LaGrange.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. And something's never changed. Go back 20, 30 years, that was the patronage system for Pate Phillum and everybody else, if you recall. Mm-hmm. So some things just don't change. And about starting a business, I started one 30-some years ago. I don't think I could do what I did, back then. Oh, my gosh, it was so hard. And but at least, the deck was somewhat not as crazy as it is now. I don't check the right boxes these days.
Right. Thanks for the call, Neil. Well, things don't change. They take new forms until you work to structurally change them, which we haven't done in Illinois. Kevin in Austin, Texas.
So as a father of a child with special needs, I've got two daughters. My second daughter has Down syndrome. I read the fact that these guys that all went to grad school together, half of them go in the government, the other half start nonprofits, and they start helping each other out. It's like when I was, younger. You know what? I want to be a philanthropist. I just need millions of dollars to give away, and that's what these people did. And they're getting the millions of dollars from the government.
And cloak themselves in righteousness. Yes. No, it's really something to watch. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then, so what's resentful is you have families that have children with special needs or love somebody with special needs. They've got to compete with dollars that help against these people that are just absolute frauds. And that's a difficult balance that DOGE has to look at, because there are plenty of conservative parents, somebody loves with somebody with special needs, that flirt with Democrats because they care, but they only use people with disabilities as props, but they're really using it for their grift.
100%. Well said. Thanks for the call, Kevin. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160, Hope for Your Life.
I should have done it sooner.
Hi, Amy Jacobson here, and that's what a number of people say to me when they come up and talk to me about QC Kinetics. Why did I wait so long? So let me ask you a question to see if whether or not you're a good candidate for QC Kinetics. Do you have trouble sleeping, walking, day-to-day movement? Do you want to avoid surgery and all the pain, the long recovery, and the uncertainty that comes with it? Do you miss doing things like golfing, jogging, playing pickleball? Well, if you answered yes to any of these questions, I bet you're a great candidate. So please don't wait. Contact our good friends at QC Kinetics right now and ask for your free consultation. Learn how the latest advances in regenerative medicine can help you and give you lasting pain relief with no drugs, no surgery, no downtime. Saturday appointments available. Call 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. Again, 312-809-5955.
Ad paid for by RFA Cancellation. Attention timeshare owners. If you need to get rid of your timeshare for any reason, please listen to the following message. Getting out of a timeshare commitment is not easy, and it takes time. But we specialize in helping consumers legally get rid of their expensive timeshares forever. Can't get the vacation dates that work for you? Maybe you felt taken advantage of or forced into the timeshare? Maybe you just can't continue to shoulder those monthly payments any longer. If you need to eliminate your timeshare commitment, then you need to take down this number, 800-721-6919. We will safely and legally get rid of your timeshare payments forever, all with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't continue to let your timeshare be a financial burden to you and your loved ones. Call us now at 800-721-6919. The call is free. The consultation is free. Call 800-721-6919. That's 800-721-6919. Again, 800-721-6919.
President Trump is moving at lightning speed.
Billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse.
Executive orders, new policies, promises kept. It's hard to keep up until now. Subscribe to the Trump Report. This email brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week.
The golden age of America begins right now.
It'll help you follow President Trump at the speed of Trump.
You can hear this today at PreggerTopia.com.
Happiness is a challenge for so many reasons. Most people think that the battle for happiness is battle with outside forces, and they are to a certain extent. But the biggest battle for happiness is with you. The biggest battle in life for most people is with themselves.
Hear the entire episode. It's for Preggertopia members only. Go to PreggerTopia.com.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. In his press briefing on Wednesday last week, President Trump commented on the Russia and Ukraine war and the administration's first steps to try and end that conflict. The most notable aspect of the presser is that we don't see what he sees about Ukraine's war of survival. The level of awful is probably off the charts. I fear some in legacy media would rather the president fail than Ukraine survive. There is an eagerness for catastrophe to befall 45-47, even if it also means a disaster for Ukraine. We are witnessing not just shuttle diplomacy underway, but shuttles diplomacy. Secretary Rubio, National Security Advisor Wall, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff are headed over here. Vice President Vance, retired General Kellogg are headed over there. There is an eagerness on the part of legacy media to create conflict among allies that is simply astonishing. The casualties are so enormous that anyone on the outside trying to look in could, perhaps, give it a rest until, say, Easter. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560, The Answer. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
The cannibal killer has been released. Interesting. As was a individual who beat up a New York City police officer. We'll talk a little bit of law and order and Ukraine with University of Chicago law professor Richard Epstein at 8:08.
But now into the newsroom we go. Here is Mike Scott.
An Iowa man wanted in a deadly shooting at a Chicago hotel. The trial of the Highland Park shooting suspect is set to begin. And a vigil is held for a woman killed in a Chicago stabbing. Bulls lost to the Suns. They're back in action tonight. Cubs beat the Rangers, and the White Sox go down against the Royals in spring training baseball. WIND Chicago news time is 8 o'clock.
It's been 3 years now. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Since Russian leader Vladimir Putin started waging war in Ukraine,
a peaceful nation was invaded with no reason except Putin's imperial obsession.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen showing her support in Ukraine today. Fox's Alex Hogan's also there.
Memorials are underway, and a group of European leaders and dignitaries have arrived here in Kyiv for that grim anniversary. Today, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said this, quote, writing, 3 years of resistance, 3 years of gratitude, 3 years of absolute heroism of Ukrainians.
And that's not all Zelensky's saying.
This weekend, he told reporters he would step down if that meant peace or a NATO membership.
But National Security Advisor Mike Waltz tells Fox this morning,
I do not see the United States having Ukraine enter into NATO.
And Waltz keeps pushing an offer Zelensky has said no to, letting the U.S. share the profits of Ukraine's rare earth minerals as payback for all the American military aid sent to help battle Russia.
This could mean trillions, not only for the Ukrainian people, but for us and for stability for the region. And that economic investment is one of the best security guarantees that Ukraine could hope for.
And today, President Trump will host France's president at the White House to discuss how to end the war and talk trade amid Trump tariff threats. A lot of federal workers are on deadline to respond to an email today detailing their accomplishments on the job last week. And Fox's Peter Ducey reports from the White House.
Remote work for people that work for the federal government is now a thing of the past. Everybody, as of today, 9 a.m., ordered back to their desks. So despite all the uncertainty with buyouts and layoffs, the certain thing here within the Beltway is that traffic is going to be a lot worse.
Pope Francis remains in critical condition with a liver issue added to pneumonia now. America's listening to Fox News.
39 degrees. 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. The trial of the Highland Park July 4 parade shooting suspect gets started today. Jury selection begins in Lake County Court for the trial of Robert Cremo III. Jury selection set to begin today in the trial of the Plainfield landlord charged with murder of a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy in 2023. Prosecutors argue Joseph Chuba stabbed the child and his mother in October 2023 because they were Muslim. An Iowa man is wanted in a deadly shooting at a Chicago hotel over the weekend. It happened Saturday night in the lobby in the 300 block of West Grand at that hotel. One woman hospitalized in good condition. One had been shot in a room on the 30th floor. She was pronounced dead later at a nearby hospital. Community members remembering a woman killed in a Chicago stabbing that left her 2 young sons seriously hurt. A prayer vigil was held yesterday on the south side to honor Teoni Jones. Person of interest is in custody following a deadly shooting on the south side. Chicago police tell us officers were responding yesterday morning to a call of a well-being check in the 7600 block of South Ingleside when they discovered a woman unresponsive with a gunshot wound. Again, detectives continue their investigation. Bulls visit the 76ers tonight. Blackhawks visit Utah tomorrow. Cubs and Padres today in spring ball, while the Southsiders take on the Rangers. The news, a service of Quick Delivery Service. Make Quick Delivery Service your personal ground crew anytime, anywhere, any place. When you need to move your shipment or freight, Quick Delivery will get it there. Get a quote in advance and eliminate any surprises at quickdelivery.com. Time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Apple says it will build a new factory in Texas by next year. The location to build artificial intelligence servers is part of a $500 billion investment in the U.S. in the next 4 years. The Houston factory will add about 20,000 research and development jobs. Apple's CEO Tim Cook met with President Trump last week. Apple will also launch a manufacturing academy in Michigan and will also be spending in California, Arizona, Nevada, Iowa, Oregon, North Carolina, and Washington. Domino's Pizza shares down nearly 3%. Sales rose in the holiday quarter, but Wall Street was expecting an even stronger showing. Shares of Alibaba, China's answer to Amazon, are losing ground with plans to spend $53 billion on cloud computing and artificial intelligence. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Posola, invested in you.
We'll have a check of traffic and weather coming up next on AM 560.
President Trump is moving at lightning speed.
And after that, all hell is going to break out.
Executive orders, new policies, promises kept. It's hard to keep up until now. Subscribe to the Trump Report. This email brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week.
I will put America first.
It'll help you follow President Trump at the speed of Trump.
Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/Trump.
You heard me talk about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too with their 3-week quick start kit for only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. Visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF for Relief Factor.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Why pay more for prescriptions? Stop overpaying and start saving with SingleCare. It's easy. Find your prescription on singlecare.com, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and start saving. SingleCare works at pharmacies nationwide and is completely free to use, whether you have insurance or not. So the next time you fill a prescription, check SingleCare to make sure you're getting the best price. Take control of your prescription costs. Go to singlecare.com or download the free app today.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Michaela's Mobile Spa, Michaela! Michaela got a quick business insurance quote from Progressive and chose from over 30 customizable coverages. Sure, it helps she's her only employee and does literally everything. But while others would rest on their laurels, Michaela was hard at work saving big. So take that, hypothetical other employee who doesn't exist. Be your own Michaela. See if you could save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage is not available in all states or for all vehicles and coverage selections.
It's 8:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Kennedy inbound, 50 minutes O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Kennedy outbound remains shut down due to an accident and now investigation between Montrose and Lawrence. It's been that way all morning long. You're diverted off onto the outbound Edens Expressway. I-55 northbound all jammed up between Route 126 and 53. All due to an accident there. Stevenson outbound between the Tri-State and Cass. Report of an accident there, car into the wall. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Cloudy skies, breezy mild. The high today 50. Cloudy with a shower in the area tonight, low 35. Partly sunny for tomorrow, the high 52. Clouds and mild, some occasional rain on Wednesday, high Wednesday 51. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
41 at Midway, 39 in Aurora, 41 in Waukegan, 39 Lakefront. Your next news update, 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
morning, Dan and Amy. Coleman Hughes, friend of the show, a very sharp young guy, wrote the book, The End of Racial Politics. We had him on the show to discuss. I also did a podcast with him on that topic, if you want to check that out online. Very, very smart guy. Young guy, too, really. I mean, he sort of started making a name for himself when he was still an undergrad at Columbia. And very thoughtful, good writer. He was on a panel recently talking about DEI, and I thought this was a good riff he went on. University of Michigan, which we've talked about, which really established one of the most aggressive DEI bureaucracies at the collegiate level, and that's saying something. A lot of competition in that space. The parable of the snake Coleman Hughes used in order to illustrate his point about what these DEI bureaucracies actually produce.
I mean, look what happened at University of Michigan. So University of Michigan, unique, not unique, but special among state universities, went all in on DEI and multiplied its DEI hires by something like 10. They had over 200 DEI officials and made a specific point when Chris Rufo and Robbie Starbuck and others launched a very successful campaign against DEI in the media. They said, no, we're doubling down and tripling down. New York Times did an intensive investigation of what has been the result of that doubling and tripling down. And the result is best described by an old parable I heard from when the British ruled India, which was that they were having a problem with a particular kind of snake. You may have heard this. And so they decided to give a cash reward for every person who brought in a dead snake, thinking that, 2 + 2 = 4, all the dead snakes will be gone. Turns out, if you give a cash reward for dead snakes, people will breed snakes and kill them and start snake farms. And it turns out that there were way more snakes at the end of this dumb program than there were at the beginning. That's kind of like what DEI bureaucracies are, right? You think, there's some racial discomfort, there's some microaggressions, there's occasionally some real racism on campus. Let's double our DEI department. They'll fix it. Well, it turns out, no, they just solicit problems that would not have been there otherwise. The thing that, when you might have been a college freshman, it was like an interesting, uncomfortable conversation with your roommate of a different race than you, where you both grew. That now gets reported to a DEI bureaucrat as a microaggression because they asked where you're from, So everything that seems like it's tamping down the problem is actually exacerbating it. And that's what happened at University of Michigan. And they've been forced to admit that really reluctantly because it's become so obvious, even for an organization that doubled and tripled down on its investment in DEI.
Yeah, and New York Times actually did a piece on it, too, which made it impossible for Michigan to not essentially concede the point that Coleman Hughes described. For more on this and a couple of other matters, pleased to be joined again by Professor Richard Epstein, James Parker Hall, Distinguished Service Professor Emeritus of Law and Senior Lecturer at the University of Chicago. Professor Epstein, thanks for joining us again.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, to spar again.
Yes, the DEI. Now, you recently wrote about DEI, a slightly different angle of talking a bit more about Title IX, so based on sex and also age discrimination, which I want to get to. But let's get to it straight away. I mean, you can riff off of what Coleman Hughes had to say about DEI focusing on race, but I guess this would be applicable to the issues that you take up as well.
Yeah, look, what I was talking about is something that was introduced with huge aplomb about 50 years ago, 45 years ago, on the question of how it is that we deal with athletics in universities on the one hand, sex discrimination, and then with mandatory retirement of faculty, which came up somewhat later. And both of these programs I regard are completely destructive to the way in which a university ought to work. There is naturally a certain kind of asymmetry in sports between males and females, which has to be observed. Football is a huge driver of revenue for just about everybody. And so what happens, you have to keep those teams alive, and then they subsidize the rest of the university. If you have a rule which says you're trying to get proportionate numbers of males and females into athletics, if you're going to do the football game, what you have to do is to wipe out minor sports everywhere else. And so you go to a place like University of Illinois or UCLA, they don't have a male swimming team. 300 wrestling teams have been recommissioned over the last 50 years and so forth, all to keep those numbers crazy. There are lots of stories where the men athletes pay the women to start a softball team so they could start a baseball team. And what happens is you just have to get rid of those kinds of times. Back in the early 1960s, 1970s, there was certainly a lag in women's sports, but the demands have become very much stronger. By the time the statutes were passed, most universities had made real internal accommodations because they respond to the pressures of their students. If you look at the situation today, it's exactly the opposite. We no longer have a majority of male students. We have a very strong majority of female students, 59 and 60%. If you try to keep that proportionality, you're just going to have to shut down male teams right and left, which is one reason why it is that males are going to be more reluctant to enroll in these kinds of universities. You get rid of the statute, you get rid of a huge bureaucracy like the DEI bureaucracy. What you do is you will find more male students coming in. The women who want sports programs can certainly speak to female administrators and male administrators in their own home. And what happens is by taking the government monkey off of everybody's back, what you will do is you'll have a less left-leaning kind of situation, which is what happened, and you'll have a much more open discourse on campus. One of the consequences of deciding to have these huge sex preferences in these programs is really quite simple and quite appalling. If you start speaking out against them, then it turns out that you're basically putting yourself into real hot water. And so I've known coaches who've been told, you may do what you want, but you can't do it on campus, because the moment you speak against Title IX and its rulings with respect to sex, you're basically violating university policy, and we're going to have to really clamp down upon you. If you wanted to get rid of all of that stuff, you lighten the burdens on universities from external situations, you free the faculties to being a little bit more conservative than they would otherwise be, you'll increase male participation. It probably won't reduce female participation. But even if you did, you have to be aware of what the trade-off is. Right now, if you try to get another man in there, it's going to be crazy. And what happens is if you were to simply cut out some of the subsidies that are given to women, you may lose one woman athlete and gain 30 male athletes with the same amount of dollars. And if every student counts for one, the thought that you're improving economic educational opportunities for men and women when you make it vastly harder for non-football players to become sports, it's exactly what you heard about DEI. You're doing one thing and you're getting exactly the opposite result from what you want.
Right.
And this is done by a policy. So you just get rid of it.
Well, so right. I mean, so Title IX is basically what you're suggesting is like some of these proposed racial spoil system. It's you basically have become what you railed against. It's just a different beneficiary and a different victim.
Yeah. It's exactly what it is, and it's so unnecessary. This thing was all done. The original purpose of Title IX, nobody's going to fight it today. It's irrelevant. You really want to say that you don't allow women to be chemistry majors at a university? That was the sort of thing that you actually faced back in the 1950s. It was rapidly crumbling at the time, and nobody cares if you say all programs and academics have to be open to students of both sexes. But the athlete stuff came through a series of letters. It was one of the most litigated and argued questions ever. Probably 10,000 letters or more were submitted on that question. And in the Carter administration, they came out with exactly a mad ruling which says the underrepresented sex always has to get all sorts of advantages until you get to parity. Well, parity is not what you're going to see in an unregulated market. There'll be more women in dance classes and more men in athletic classes. Let them sort voluntarily. And it's just a totally artificial assumption to assume that they're going to break exactly the same way. And just as it's a crazy assumption to assume that if you're talking about naval architecture, you're going to get as many female applicants as you get male applicants. In fact, the ratio is something like 97-3. You go into nursing, there are many more men going into it, which is just great. But it's certainly a profession which is dominantly female, Look at social work, it's the same thing. Universities essentially are highly sex specialized when it comes to their educational program, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. What we're trying to do is to satisfy the demands of the students. What we're not trying to do is satisfy the demands of certain administrators for kind of sex parity in a situation where that absolutely is at utter variance with the preferences that everybody has. And so you just got to get rid of this stuff and open it. And what Trump can say is, you think I'm really being hard on you and I want to tax your endowment or whatever? Here's something I'm giving you which is going to make your life more free. And there'll be some university that says, we want to remain in bondage because we think all of the stuff having to do with sex identity is something we have to preserve. It's a crazy value and it ought to go.
Well, I wanted to ask you quickly about Governor Janet Mills from Maine. I mean, President Trump met with governors from all the states, and he confronted her. I signed a federal executive order banning men or boys from playing girls' sports, and she defied it. And she said, well, we'll see you in court. And he's like, yeah, well, we'll see you in court. So what's going to happen when they go to court?
Well, he'll win. Look, I mean, that's another illustration. Basically allowing one man to enter a female swimming meet distorts it for everybody else. So women can't win women contests. I think it's 100% right. There's a very simple rule. You cannot declare yourself to be a woman and participate in female events. You have to undergo sexual reassignment in order to be able to do so, at which point you're not going to be any better than the other women whom you're fighting against. Now, I think Trump goes overboard when he takes after transgenders in the military. I think perfectly important for everybody to be there. And I'll stress something else. I 100% support him and have put extensively on it that we do not want to have various kinds of hormonal treatments or operations on minors for sex change operations. But that's the minors that you're worried about. If somebody has decided to do them on themselves when there's an adult, nobody objects to it. And I can't see any reason why you'd want to keep these people out of the military. So it's a typical kind of Trump forte. He sees something right and then he does something stupid. You don't want to do that. What you do is focus on the abuse and get rid of it. And he's absolutely right about the University of Pennsylvania making a hero's welcome to men who win women's meets. And the women I know are all in favor of that. So it's another case of Title IX. Everybody's supposed to be equal. So what you do is you give this one preference, and then hundreds of women are cheated out of any opportunities to win various kinds of medals in that competition. Separate but equal has always been the proper norm in most sports. There are exceptions. In equestrianism, it's best I can tell, male and female riders compete on equal terms, and so there's no real selection. Want to do that in soccer? You can get yourself a 100-0 game if you basically put a women's team against the male team. I mean, the differences are just enormous, and one has to respect that.
I want to get to the age discrimination piece too, because it's sort of it folds in tenure, and your targeting of age discrimination protections in academia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, I mean, this is something very simple. If you look at every university that was well run, without exception, everybody believes that there ought to be age comps and so forth, because there are many people who decline in effectiveness and are getting higher salaries. And somebody said, well, there's some people at the peak of their production. And so they are, but there's an aftermarket. And what happens in that market is people who are still productive get lots of offers to do lots of things. I'm almost 82, and it's not as though the age discrimination law protects me. What you have to do is keep on writing, and people will come to you. They won't give me a 10-year contract, but we'll work with us for a year or two of what it is. So the market worked perfectly well in these areas. Once you put this thing into place, what happens is you completely change the dynamic of a faculty. You've got new disciplines that are arising. You've got old people who can't teach them. You want to hire 2 new faculty members. You could do so if one person was forced to retire, because that's what the wage differential was. If you want to get governance of people who are more forward-looking, you certainly don't want your committees dominated by people who are over 70. The prime ages in universities are 30s, 40s, and 50s, and that's where you want the core of your governance to come from. So why it is that you would protect these senior people and give them vested rights, at the same time the younger people who come to the faculty also get chairs. Their chairs are folding chairs. They get short-term contracts. They don't get tenure-track position. They're constantly put at things. And what happens is you create a gerontocracy, which isn't worth having. What you have to do is to repeal that statute. Now, how do we know that it's inefficient? Every university that's forced to keep people on immediately tries to find out ways to buy them off. And they do. You give a fixed contract, and if you leave at 65, you may get twice your annual salary just to go. People aren't paying you that money because they're efficient. They want you to leave. But what happens is all the able people take the money because they'll get other jobs, and the less able people, they keep their position, and they ruin the average faculty. So this is the kind of thing which has all these unintended reverse consequences. When this came up back in the late 1980s, I was very active on this thing. I wrote letter after letter telling people that they should never do something so stupid for tenured faculty, indeed, in anywhere in life. What they did is they gave businesses an exemption so they can also force their senior membership to retire. They didn't do it for academics under these circumstances. And now if you're trying to trade it, you're going to have to face another union problem. The American Association of University Professors is a union shop. And they like keeping their older people around because, as is the case with all unions, seniority is an enormously influenced situation. The top people who are the least productive have the greatest control over the operation in question. You're going to probably need legislation in order to do this, but essentially, age discrimination is really difficult because there's no way you conduct those rules. You fire somebody over 66, whatever the age is, you're finished, and everybody knows that. And so the statute's enforced, and this is the world we have. Every sober institution understands the importance of circulating through mandatory retirement, particularly if you have tenure. The only people who don't understand is the government. We're forcing everybody to do what everybody knows is unwise. And when this was put forward, one of my friends told me he was pushing this thing. He said, Richard, why are you worried about this? It's only in the great universities that this is going to have an adverse effect. I said, is this an argument for or against the situation? And any university that wants to extend employment, be my guest. I think it's quite unwise as a faculty matter to force retirement at 65. People are now at 65 as productive as people 100 years ago were at 50 or 45. So extend it a little bit if you want, but let it be done on a decentralized basis. The federal government has no business micromanaging universities. And again, if you then ask Mr. Trump, if you get rid of this, the cost of running a university go way down, and that means you could lower tuition and increase efficiency. Regulation of the way in which these universities operate has become, to my mind, something of a national scandal. And the moment you protect these kinds of folks, the power that they wield is not going to be to improve the university. It's basically to protect their own sinecures. I think all of us should be put on our own, and I can tell you, I never cared about this, and I wasn't covered by it. But the moment I hit 65, I said to myself, I don't want the protection of this. I want to get myself another job. The only way to do it is to continue to work, and I was lucky enough to be able to do so. And as far as I'm concerned, it's still the correct way to do it institutionally, and the market will adopt to people who will let go. And anybody who continues to have marketable skills after the mandatory retirement age will be able to find somebody in the market who is willing to hire.
Well, we're happy you're still working, too. Professor Richard Epstein, James Parker Hall, Distinguished Service Professor Emeritus of Law and Senior Lecturer at the University of Chicago. Professor Epstein, thank you.
It's always been a pleasure. Take care and goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
You never want to miss one of life's most important moments. A graduation, a birthday, a first communion, a wedding. When these moments happen, you want to make sure to capture them so that you and your loved ones can remember them for years to come. For over 30 years, families have relied on Tom Kaloran Photography to capture important life moments. This locally owned family business can provide the solutions you need for your important event photography, from weddings and birthdays to class reunions and golf outings. No matter the size or scope, Tom Kaloran Photography will make sure you have lasting memories to share for years to come. Tom Kaloran Photography is also the official photographer for AM 560 The Answer. To learn more and to see their portfolio, just visit KaloranPhotography.com. That's KILLORAN Photography.com. Or call them at 708-361-0025. Tom Kaloran Photography, capturing important life moments for over 30 years.
All right. We are here to tell you, you know what? Dearest Justin, it's not in here. What do you suggest this live read might be under? All right, did everybody hear that? Chicagoland schools. And that's the negative, Ghostwriter. So we'll just throw it back to you.
The fight against abortion in Illinois has never been more important than it is right now. Thanks to our elected officials, Illinois has become an abortion tourism destination. The number of abortions in our state continues to grow, despite the fact that crisis pregnancy centers outnumber abortion clinics almost 3 to 1. Now, thanks to a new effort by Caring Network, it's possible to reach abortion-minded women, to provide peace of mind and security to help them choose life. This new Reach Her First initiative seeks to provide women with the assurance and information they need before they choose an abortion. But Caring Network needs your help to reach women who are considering abortion. For a one-time gift of just $150, you can help reach 5 women and help them choose life. That's all it takes to prevent an abortion. To make that gift, just go to 560theanswer.com/caring. That's 560theanswer.com/caring.
Are you an administrator, staff member, or parent volunteer at a private school? Would you like to grow your current enrollment and welcome new families to your school? If so, we want to tell you about a great opportunity to help increase enrollment and promote your school to families all across Chicagoland. It's called ChicagolandSchoolVouchers.com. They work to connect private schools with new families who are looking for discounted first-year tuition. In exchange, your school will receive a marketing campaign to help grow your enrollment. Chicagoland School Vouchers does all the work to bring new families together with your school and help you expand your reach. They've been working with schools across Chicagoland for over a decade as the demand for school choice grows here in Illinois. Your private school needs to take advantage of this program. To learn more, just visit ChicagolandSchoolVouchers.com. That's ChicagolandSchoolVouchers.com.
Knowledge is power, and you deserve to know what happens in your state government. That's why the Center Square's reporting zeroes in on state authorities publishing stories that show where your money goes and who spends it. The Center Square gives power to the taxpayer by tracking politicians' use of the people's money and demanding transparency from state-run agencies. This is how the Center Square equips you, the American taxpayer, to hold your state government accountable. Sign up now for your state's Center Square newsletter at thecentersquare.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll talk to Stetson University sociology professor Chris Ferguson about a new study on cell phone use in schools out of the UK. May provide some surprising results for those who think that cell phones shouldn't be in the classroom. That's at 8:38.
But first, let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
41 degrees at 8:32 on AM 560, The Answer. Today is the day the Trump administration is set to put all civil servants employed by USAID on administrative leave. Today is also the day that marks 3 years since the beginning of the war between Russia and Ukraine.
On this date in 2022, Russia launched Ukraine, a conflict that has resulted in a massive number of casualties on both sides. The invasion escalated tensions that had been brewing since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. A Wall Street Journal estimate from September puts the total number of dead and wounded in the current conflict at about 1 million, but exact figures aren't known. Diplomatic efforts to end the war have stalled between Russia and Ukraine, and last week, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Saudi Arabia to discuss a peace agreement, something Ukrainian officials were not invited to participate in. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
President Trump welcoming French President Emmanuel Macron to the White House today. Macron has made it clear that Ukraine will be a key topic of discussion. The trial of the Highland Park July 4 parade shooting suspect will get underway today in Lake County Court. Jury selection begins in the trial of Robert Cremo III. And jury selection is also set to begin today in the trial of the Plainfield landlord charged with the murder of a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy in 2023. Joseph Chuba faces several charges, including first-degree murder. The Bulls take on the 76ers tonight. The Blackhawks visit Utah tomorrow. Fighting Illini men embarrassed by number 3 Duke on Saturday. The Illini host Iowa tomorrow night. The Illini women finally get ranked Then they fall to number 3 UCLA and number 4 USC over the weekend. Only one regular season game left with a powerful Michigan squad and then the Big Ten tournament. The news, a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting quotes for dental implants with medical PPO insurance? It's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify. AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The first weeks of the new Trump administration have been full speed ahead, making America great again.
This could only get better.
And on Tuesday, March 4th, President Trump will take a victory lap when he addresses Congress and the nation. And AM 560 is throwing a watch party.
They tell me it's very exciting.
Join us for dinner and President Trump's speech on March 4th in Rolling Meadows. Get your tickets at 560theanswer.com/watch. That's 560theanswer.com/watch. Sponsored in part by attorney Burton Hochberg.
Are you feeling trapped by a timeshare you barely use? With maintenance fees piling up, calls from creditors, and the stress of mounting interest, it's time to break free. At RFA Cancellation, they specialize in legally canceling timeshares. If you've received a maintenance fee bill and don't know what to do, you're not alone. Over 2,000 people hired RFA Cancellation last year, and they're no longer paying those fees this year. Imagine starting 2025 free from collections, daily calls, and endless bills. Whether your timeshare is sitting unused or you're overwhelmed by unexpected costs, they're here to help. Call RFA Cancellation today at 800-721-6919. That's 800-721-6919. Their friendly experts will guide you through every step, ensuring a smooth and stress-free process. Don't let another year go by. Get in touch and take the first step toward freedom. RFA Cancellation, your path to financial relief.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. In his press briefing on Wednesday last week, President Trump commented on the Russia and Ukraine war and the administration's first steps to try and end that conflict. The most notable aspect of the presser is that we don't see what he sees about Ukraine's war of survival. The level of awful is probably off the charts. I fear some in legacy media would rather the president fail than Ukraine survive. There is an eagerness for catastrophe to befall 45-47, even if it also means a disaster for Ukraine. We are witnessing not just shuttle diplomacy underway, but shuttles diplomacy. Secretary Rubio, National Security Advisor Walsh, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff are headed over here. Vice President Vance, retired General Kellogg are headed over there. There is an eagerness on the part of legacy media to create conflict among allies that is simply astonishing. The casualties are so enormous that anyone on the outside trying to look in could, perhaps, give it a rest until, say, Easter. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
8:37, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Inbound Kennedy, 40 minutes, O'Hare into the Burn Circle interchange. Outbound remains shut down between Montrose and Lawrence, all due to an investigation after an earlier multi-vehicle accident. And all traffic continues to be diverted off onto the outbound Edens. The Ike inbound slows up between Des Plaines and Homan, all due to an accident. Stevenson, an accident, car into the wall, outbound between the Tri-State and Cass Avenue. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Cloudy, breezy in your forecast and mild today. A high near 50 and a low of 35 with maybe a shower overnight. Cloudy and 41 right now. Next news coming up at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Now that the kids are back in class, we're put COVID in a rearview mirror, at least for most people. Returning to this discussion that we were having pre-COVID about the use of cell phones in K through 12 school settings. And the consensus was, I think, fairly stated that it was unhelpful, that it too distracting, and reduces attention spans and so on and so forth. But what does the actual science suggest as researchers are continuing to look into the impact of cell phones in classroom settings? Chris Ferguson is a professor of psychology at Stetson University in Florida. We've had him on before. He and a colleague did an interesting meta-study a couple years back, maybe just last year actually, on racial bias in criminal sentences, and found, looking at some 4 dozen studies, really no evidence, despite the histrionics from the identitarians, of anything systemic in terms of racial discrimination in criminal sentencing. That made some news. Anyway, he's also the author of Catastrophe, The Psychology of Why Good People Make Bad Decisions Worse. He joins us now. Professor Ferguson, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on this morning.
So this study out of the UK on cell phone use in schools, give us sort of the summary of what the researchers did and why you are... I think you're a bit skeptical of the methodology.
Well, there are some pros and cons about it. So what they basically did is they looked at 30 different schools, 20 of which had restricted students' access to their cell phones in some manner or another, and 10 which did not. And what they basically found is that the schools that restricted students' access to their phones, that they didn't see any improvement in the youth mental health or their grades or how disruptive in the class. So, sort of taking that at face value, this added a little piece of evidence that, maybe these cell phone bans that have become very popular don't seem to be having the impact that people thought that they would, at least if the intention is to help kids in some sort of way. It doesn't look like these cell phone bans are helping kids. It doesn't look like they're necessarily hurting kids either, but it doesn't appear that they're helping kids, at least from this analysis.
How long were the restrictive policies imposed? I mean, maybe I missed it, but part of this, I wonder, was it long enough to suggest, that you could actually measure changes in academic performance?
Yeah, I think it was. It was over the course of, and I think it varied a little bit by the individual school, but it looked like it was about over the course of about a couple years. Okay. In essence, that they had done this. So it's enough time that we would think that we would see a change. And it's important to point out, when you hear schools talk about these policies, they oftentimes claim, very early on that they're seeing, drastic changes in their students' behavior. Within months in some cases. So it doesn't appear that the evidence is supporting those types of claims that schools are making. And even in some cases, with my local school here, for instance, I got a public information request, so I see some of the data that they've got. It's kind of the same thing that, from the year before the local schools here banned cell phones to the year that they actually did the ban of cell phones, there doesn't seem to be any improvements, in grades, in bullying behavior, in mental health referrals, or things like that. So we seem to be getting, not perfect data by any means, but different pools of data suggesting that maybe these cell phone bans are not having a clear positive influence, at least within a year or two of them being implemented.
Well, don't tell our governor that, because we're about to become the 9th state to ban cell phones in classrooms. But what I want to ask you, in regards of cheating, though, I just because I have 2 teenage boys, actually they're not teenagers anymore. Oh my God, but they. I know what some of them and their friends were doing. They had their cell phones, and they could, pre-write down answers in quizzes and tests.
Yeah.
And cheat. So in regards to cheating, you didn't notice any difference?
I don't know that these studies have tracked cheating specifically. There's nothing in the data that specifically looks at that. The relevant numbers they have are for grades. So we don't see that there are any grade differences between these schools. Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. Yeah, and it certainly is possible. Obviously, with the cell phones and smartphones, you could put the answers in. Theoretically, teachers could monitor the kids to make sure they don't have their cell phones out while they're taking a test.
Well, that's
in the same way, that they would do that with like written notes, which is to say imperfect.
No, but that's where I was going to go. I mean, one of the things, and I think you make this point in the study too, is distinguishing between the gradations in cell phone policy. I mean, some could be an outright ban; you can't have them on the school premises. Yeah. Others could be you could do it in homeroom or recess, if you call it, or whatever. Yeah. There could be intermittently during the day, and whether or not gradations in policy made any difference.
Yeah, the study actually did look at that. They actually did look at a number of schools, which were a relatively small number to be fair, but a number of schools that had sort of the maximalist policy, which means that the kids, if they had a phone with them, had to put it in a locked bag essentially. They could not access at any point during the day. And even those schools did not show an improvement over the more permissive schools. So, at least in that sense, it didn't appear that the restrictiveness of the policy made any difference. Now, I mean, of course, the thing you could say is, well, maybe the kids are, finding ways around the policy, and I think that's absolutely possible, or even probable that is happening. But it still kind of calls into question whether these policies are actually, one way or another. It doesn't look like these policies are doing the sorts of things we would hope that they were doing. And they sometimes do have some risk in the sense of, if students are caught, what is the punishment? And at least in some schools, again, like my local school here, they are using suspensions, at least in some cases, and suspensions are associated with negative outcomes for kids, including, reduced grades, but also including adult arrest and things like that. So there is some risk that if the schools are going a little overboard, at least with the punishment, at least in terms of suspensions, that those policies may actually harm some kids rather than help them.
What about the composition of the various schools in terms of the distribution of student performance going in? In other words, I mean, for example, here in suburban Chicago, there's a private school, Northridge Prep, which is a really good school. It's all boys school, and they have a no cell phone policy. But I mean, but all those kids get into Northridge Prep and going there, I mean, they're academic killers to begin with. So cell phone policy, no cell phone policy probably wouldn't register just because of the culture there. The school's culture matters too, and the distribution of performance among the student body. And I just wonder if maybe lower performing students with lower performing student bodies overall, there may be more of a delta just because it deals with that attention deficit.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, I think with this English study, it was a study conducted in the UK. It was with a range of schools, so that should smooth over some of those, demographic issues. I can say with the public information request I made at the local schools here, that's Orange County schools, which is Orlando, Florida, basically. That the public school district there, has, if anything, an overrepresentation of ethnic minority, poor students and such. And so, we're still not seeing that kind of positive change within a large public school that is not the private school, right? It's not the elite private school that is catering to a relatively wide range of kids, including probably a plethora of underprivileged kids.
Interesting. Well, I mean, but I just go back to those NAAP scores that came out a couple of weeks ago too. I mean, there's so many variables in this that when the reading and math scores are so dismally low that the idea that this is some sort of panacea that's going to create a market change, I mean, it's probably there's good reasons to be skeptical of that just rationally.
Exactly, yeah. And I think a lot of what motivates this, I mean, what's interesting to me, too, is the sort of difference between, like, what teachers are saying. They're saying oftentimes, this is wonderful, this is great. And then here we have this data that suggests that, in fact, we don't seem to be seeing, much of any positive change in this. And I think that, it brings up this question of, well, why are the teachers and the administrators seeming to be seeing such a positive outcome from these? And I don't think they're lying, obviously. But I think one of the things that maybe is really the underlying motivation here is if you see a student on their cell phone as a teacher, and I'm a university professor, so I see this too sometimes,
right.
And I'm sympathetic towards this. It's kind of humiliating in a way. It's a very visible sign that your student is not paying attention to you, as opposed to if they're doodling, it may look like they're taking notes, or if they're daydreaming, at least maybe they look like they're thoughtful or something, So I think that, part of it is students or their teachers rather are no longer seeing their students on their cell phones. They're no longer experiencing that humiliation, that sort of etiquette breach. And they think it's great because it's not being rubbed in their face how boring they are all the time, basically. And that might be why I think teachers and administrators are seeing this as a positive. And I think if we think of this as like an etiquette thing, then maybe it's still okay, as long as we're not using suspensions, but, we're kind of saying like it's just good etiquette for students not to whip out their cell phone in class. I'm actually kind of sympathetic towards that. But as long as we understand that it doesn't seem to be having much impact on their grades or their mental health or their bullying with each other or that sort of thing, that's probably not the panacea for those outcomes.
Professor Chris Ferguson, professor of psychology at Stetson University in Florida, author of Catastrophe, The Psychology of Why Good People Make Bad Decisions Worse. Professor Ferguson, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It was a real pleasure. I always appreciate being on.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Good news for small businesses. The all-in IT package from Turnkey has been extended. That's right. Turnkey, the local leader in small business IT services, is extending their all-in package pricing through February 28th. With the all-in package, your business receives unlimited help desk support, firewall router, unlimited backup and recovery, and antivirus protection for one low monthly investment. Plus, all-in customers enjoy new hardware every 4 years. So take advantage today and replace all your equipment with new hardware from Turnkey and enjoy all-in IT services for one low monthly payment. There's still time to save during February. For 3 decades, Turnkey has been the backbone of local companies. Let them focus on the IT while you focus on the big stuff. For IT services from world-class technicians who care, now's the time to go all in with Turnkey. Ask for the all-in package. Visit turnkey.pro today. Quality IT is a call away. That's turnkey.pro.
New treatments for joint pain are here. By now, you've heard about regenerative medicine. If you're wondering if you're a good candidate, answer these questions. First, does chronic pain in your knees, hips, shoulders, or other joints keep you from doing the things you enjoy? Golfing, jogging, time with the family. Does it hurt doing the things you need to do, like getting out of bed, sleeping, working, and walking? And finally, do you want to avoid surgery and all of the pain, long recovery, and uncertainty that comes with it? If you answered yes to any of those, you need to call QC Kinetics now. Learn about exciting advancements in regenerative treatments that can give you long-lasting pain relief with no drugs, no surgery, and no downtime. Get your free consultation today. Call QC Kinetics. That's QC Kinetics. Here's the phone number.
Call now, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. QC Kinetics, 312-809-5955.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Jim Durkin, founding partner of the Martech Group, a global market research firm based in Chicago since 1985 and a longtime customer of Signature Bank. When our business moved to our current Loop location, I recall seeing Mick O'Rourke and his 2 business partners, Brian Duncan and Kevin Vestuga, laying the foundation for Signature Bank. When Signature opened its doors in 2006, I was proud to move our accounts there and become a shareholder. Being in the consulting business, the Martech Group has a keen understanding of the value of relationships, trust, and attentiveness. Whether dealing with our U.S. practice or our international operations, Signature Bank is always there when we need them. That's why the Martech Group is proud to have Signature Bank as a valued business partner.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
AM 560, The
Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Sort of a wild story that Kathy Lee Gifford told on Sage Steele's podcast from 1993 when she was set to host the Miss America pageant that year in Atlantic City. And her husband, now departed, of course, Frank Gifford, got a call from the FBI saying that there was some psychopath that had targeted Kathy Lee Gifford for whatever reason and that she was in danger. And then she tells the rest of the story.
The FBI called my husband and said, Mr. Gifford, please just keep your schedule because we don't want this guy to know that we are after him. Mm-hmm. And Frank said, I'm going to make one call. I will not agree to that until I make one call. And he called Donald. And I always stayed at the Trump Tower there, with the one in Atlantic City. And Frank called Donald and said the situation. And Donald said, this is why I will love this man for my whole life. He said, Frank, don't you worry about it. I've got your girls. I've got your girls. And don't you worry. So Frank called back the FBI and said, I called Donald Trump. He says he's going to take care of my wife and my daughter. And next day, Donald, I didn't know anything. Donald calls me and he goes, Kathy, I'm sending my helicopter for you.
Oh my goodness.
I said, Donald, why? He said, because you had a baby. I said, Donald, women have babies every day. Yeah. It's no big deal, thank you. But it's no big deal. And he goes, no, congratulations, so happy for you. Sending my baby, my helicopter for you and your baby and your nanny. And I said, Donald, you tried to talk Donald out of something.
Yeah.
That day, he sent his helicopter for me. And when I landed,
you're not driving to Atlantic City, so you're flying there.
I'm flying
instead.
on this helicopter. And when I arrive in Atlantic City, there are four of his
security.
Oh, major. I mean, these guys are major. And I said, thank you, guys. And I never thought about it all week long. More and more people every day, more and more guys until the very end. And I went downstairs from my hotel room. I'd had a guy staying outside my hotel room all week long, outside my hotel room. And I said, why? I just never thought about it, stupid, but I did.
But he did.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. I mean, it's a nice gesture and all.
A nice gesture. He didn't have to do that.
Well, she was hosting his pageant.
Right.
At his hotel. It's the least he could do, I suppose. I mean, it's just nice, and it's nice that, Kathy Lee's a little...
What, dramatic?
A little
You
bit.
can say that.
Yeah, she's a little bit melodramatic, but that's the... she was when she had that show. What was that show?
She was Regis, Kathy.
Oh, yeah.
Regis
and Kathy, right.
Before it became Kelly and whatever her husband.
Well, and Regis was a little melodramatic, too. They were sort of entertaining. But anyway, so, it's just, it's another one of the stories where if you hear stories about how Trump actually interacts with people and why he has so many people that are loyal to him, is that... No, he has done a lot of. He is pretty charming and considerate, and he's not the guy that's at rallies on an interpersonal level. And this is why there's a lot of people that like him, even if sometimes they're afraid to say so.
He's exactly what Elon Musk said during that interview with Sean Hannity. He is a good person, and I've never seen him be unkind toward anyone.
This is dangerous, but we'll give it a shot. David in Winnetka.
Okay. Oh yeah, oh boy.
So, can you hear that phone call between Trump and Gibbs? Trump, Gibbs, yeah, this is the Don. I'm here. I got your girl. And Gibbs goes, which one?
We took the call. We took the bait.
Speaking ill of the dead, just piling on to Frank Gifford. Come on, David and Winnetka. Oh, jeez. Well, that ruined a nice moment to finish the show. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks to Justin Kosick and Eric Thomas who had to come in and help out.
If anybody sees somebody walking around, what did he steal from your car?
Justin, get in here.
At all. That's the crazy part.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Well, he smashed your back window, and then I saw the video, and it looked like there was two guys Did you share that video with police, by the way?
Oh, yes, we did.
Okay.
You know, Gat Guns is right down the road there on Dundee Road in East Dundee. You may want to put like a Gat gun owner's sign or something at your place. Make sure that they know they're taking their lives in their hands.
Yes. All right. Well, we're glad you're safe, and thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful day. We're back here at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now let's head into that newsroom once again. Here's Mike Scott.
The trial of